Good morning, Mega GMs. Hey, Rectober, day 3. Welcome to Chain Reactor. Good to see you guys this morning. Big show, big guest. Man, really excited for today. By the way, perfect intro. Nailed it. Big show, big guest. Nate Geraci, the ETF man himself. Dude, what an honor. What an honor. What a treat. Incredible guest for the show today. Very, very excited to get into this. Nate, if you're watching, welcome to come on and do the news and be my co-host. Guys, Nate will probably get here 15, 20, 30 minutes into the show. It's how we do guests on the show, right? We hit the macro market. We hit the top headlines. We have a guest come on whenever. Casual show. But Nate, if you want to be like Coder Dan and come on and hit the news with me, you're welcome to come up here. It'll be a lot of fun. Guys, smash the like. Make sure you're subscribed here as well. It's SlamX official over on YouTube. It is SlamXIO over on X. Oh my goodness. Oh my. Breaking news. Magic Eden has been teasing a brand new blockchain being integrated. We heard reports of Geraci. We heard say, what if? What if it's Cardano? Oh, we can't show that. What if it's Cardano, guys? It could be. It could be. I think we're looking at maybe a rare but much needed Cardano win. GG's to Cardano if that is in fact what it is. I think that is what it is. So okay, good game. Good job. I love to see it. Like Cardano. I got to get that image off the screen. Goodbye. All right, guys, let's get into the show here. Interesting stuff going on in the market today. Obviously, never a dull moment. Whew. Kick it off with, guys, Bank of America. Their CEO. Do you guys remember this? Do you guys remember Brian Moynihan? Telling you, be careful with your Bitcoin bags because they may be going to zero. Might be. Well, fam, it's Bank of America that went to zero here. I don't mean to be clowning on them, but Bank of America customers reporting their balance showing zero. It's just a glitch. Nobody's balance is truly, truly zero here, guys. But ironic, but also maybe he's right. Maybe he's right. Bitcoin barely hanging on to 60K, guys. Look, not worried. Not in the least. Not worried at all. But certainly a trying time here in crypto. And what's supposed to be an Uptober, we're calling it Rectober. We all have different names for it. But it starting off a certain kind of way. Again, Bitcoin barely hanging on to 60K. Got down to 60,100. Again, spicy. How low do we go? ETH holding on to 2,300. Solana at 135. It's not looking great. But, guys, I want you to take a look at the stock market. Right? We feel like everything's taken a hit here. It hasn't. Crypto, yes. Stock market is up. And we talked about this yesterday, guys. What's happening in crypto right now is very, very much PvP. And it's nothing more than PvP. It's people liquidating longs. They have been flushed out. More of this game is happening here. But PvP is impacting the market more than any kind of world events. Right? Fears of war overseas. And the stock market is up. Crypto will bounce. It's going to bounce back. Again, no worries here. Good morning, guys. Good to see you, Cosmos, Gravity, Cats. Great seeing you guys. Again, perspective. I show this for perspective. It's good to have your head. It's good to see the entire market, the macro. It's not just crypto. Looking at ETFs here, and again, we got the perfect guy on here to talk ETFs today. But Bitcoin, 52.9 million in outflows yesterday. And on the ETH side, almost... Oh, you know what? This is great, actually. ETH saw opposite action. ETH actually saw inflows. Interesting to see. We do normally see them move opposite each other, but as bad of a day as yesterday was, very surprised to see ETH in the positive, but almost 20 million in inflows yesterday for the Ethereum ETFs. Man, great to see there. In total, this is actually massive, massive. Again, can't wait to chat with Nate about this. The Bitcoin ETFs so far this year, and what are we, about 8 months into the ETFs, maybe 7 months? Over 45 billion in inflows. It's a monster number. I cannot wait to get some perspective on just how big that number is. It's huge. Here's a little context, though. 2 of the top 10 biggest ETF launches this decade are Bitcoin ETFs. And when all is said and done, it could be a clean sweep. Could we see a clean sweep, all Bitcoin ETFs? Anything's possible. Point here is they're cooking. I believe they're outperforming anybody's expectations, probably other than Nate, who I know is always bullish on this. Good morning, guys. Incredible stuff happening over there in the world of ETFs and continuing to happen here, guys. Franklin Templeton filing for a Bitcoin and ETH index ETF. So I think you get a basket of both of them, which is awesome. We knew that was coming. Assume there's a day coming with ETFs that have a little piece of many, many cryptos and probably all kinds of other digital assets as well. Big development expected to some degree. Great to see it actually happening, though. Now, you remember we talked about the Ripple ETFs. Filings just a couple days ago. Exciting, right? Exciting. We know it's coming eventually. ETFs for all these major cryptos. Solana, yes. Ripple, yes. And Nate specifically calling this one a really big deal. Also, the timing of this filing strategic. Calling it a call option on the November election. It's a bet on, hey, if Trump makes it, we're the front of the line. So, smart play, interesting play. That said, this play is at a screeching halt all of a sudden. The SEC filing an appeal in the Ripple lawsuit. This was news over the summer here, guys. Right, Ripple, at this point in the clear, but not so fast. Again, the SEC appealing that ruling. This does put a halt, I believe, guys, to the ETF filing. At the same time, announced that the SEC's enforcement director, Grewal, stepping down. Guys, this man is, I like how Marty puts it, he is their main henchman. This is the guy responsible for over $200 billion in penalties. Thank you, Tyler, for the info here. Across 2,400 actions, 100-plus enforcement actions against crypto. This is the guy. Right? If you're not a fan of Gensler, you're not a fan of this guy. And he's not somebody we need to worry about anymore. Now, is there a changing of the guard? Who's replacing him? Are they more crypto-friendly? Is the writing on the wall that this is what's coming also for Gensler? Again, questions I'm going to pose to Mr. Geraci. Good stuff. You can't stop the building, though. The SEC is going to continue to be a thorn in our side. You cannot stop what's coming. It is inevitable. Cue the Thanos meme here. You can't stop what's coming, guys. And it's just growing and accelerating in a big, big way. Swift starting live bank trials of digital asset transactions. That's coming next year. Now, previously they had their own test environment. Right? They were piloting this in a way, but in a test environment. This will now be on chain. This will be outside of the test environment, still a pilot, but this will be on chain. Interesting stuff. This will be facilitating banks across North America, Europe, Asia. This is big. This is big. And next year specifically, look, I think the market's looking pretty awesome right now. I think the market's looking awesome right now, but it's next year when I think a lot of us think the real run starts. And that's a reason why. It's because of things like that. All right. Let's say good morning to our girl, Hudah. Dude, she's so cute. She's so cute. I talk about her, though, because I got bags. I'm a fan. So am I shilling my bags? Yeah, I am. We got Nate in the house. Nate, hang on. I'm going to bring you up. You don't have to come up and do the news here with me, but you're welcome to. It's usually a lot of fun. Nate, good morning, sir. Welcome.
Hey, good morning. This is like...
Let's see. I don't have your audio yet.
Okay, hold on.
I don't hear you yet. Let me see. That might be me. No. You guys don't hear Nate, do you?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We do this live, fam. We really do. Here, we'll give it a minute. If you want, I'll put you down and you can go play around. You want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm showing my mic works. Yeah, here.
Nothing yet. Here, I'll drop you down. I think send me a message. Whatever. We'll figure this out. Anyway. The man's in the house. We'll get him up here and rock it. I would love to get him on the news itself. That'd be a lot of fun. Anyway, let's get to Degen. We'll move from this quickly now that he's here. I really want to get to some ETF stuff. But there is Degen news, guys. Futures now live, or will be live shortly here on OKX. Look, just probably the first of many. And I'm talking about Tier 1 exchange listings. All of the action we've seen in Degen have all happened with no Tier 1 exchanges. Incredibly impressive. Man, a sign of what's coming, and continuing to see other signs out there. Well, you can't measure these in the charts, but you can't ignore them either. The Tonight Show tweeting out a Degen meme, but tagging a meme coin account. I don't know if that was on purpose. I'm assuming that was an accident here, right? But you can't ignore how big that is. An account with 4+ million followers here, tweeting a Degen crypto account. Man, pretty big. I also want to make sure you guys know we've been watching for this NFT collection. Pixel Art Fighter Official, incredible. Just an incredible pixel artist. Had his art borrowed, I mean, hate to say it, and it was not really intentional, but remember PIV had borrowed his art, tweeted out his own version of it. But anyway, Pixel Art Fighter is going to drop a Degen collection. This is coming really soon. Guys, hit him up in DM, see if we can get some whitelists for the show. I will be doing the exact same here. But let's keep our eyes on that. Certainly going to cook. And just a reminder, meme coins still, with the market doing what it's doing, still opportunities. A new token called Pochita, within 90 minutes yesterday, got to a $20 million market cap. Last I looked, $30 million. Look, Cabal, whatever you want to call it, it's still there. It still works. Still opportunities there. Somebody here turning 20 SOL into over 1,000 in 3 hours. Those are the opportunities that are out there. I'd like to be a part of that. Nate, do you want to give it a try now? You want to give a thumbs up? Oh, you could you guys hear Nate? Hang on, I'm going to bring you up. Let's see. Okay.
All right, let's try this now. Can you hear me?
I think I got you.
All right.
There we go. There we go. Good to see you, man.
You too. This is like, Degen meets TradFi. And obviously TradFi is not quite as technologically inclined as we should be.
Well, it's bound to happen, the two worlds merging, right? It's why we'll get into it, but you've got your new show. It's why I wanted you here too. We got to come together because it's no matter what, it's coming. TradFi, DeFi, Degens. Are there TradFi Degens? There's got to be, right? Like,
yeah, those are like the penny stock traders.
Okay, that makes sense. Did you ever get into that?
No, not really. Maybe a little bit when I was younger, but I've long since divested trading penny stocks.
I wonder. Chat. Were you guys penny stock guys? I've tried before, and I think it just speaks to just what a bunch of degens we all are. I think some of you guys were probably into that as well. How long do I have you for today, by the way, Nate?
I can go as long as you want.
Killer. Okay. Do you want to hit the news with me?
Sure. Let's do it.
It's again. There's no rules here. There's no real formula. I already did this, by the way, the macro market. We looked at just ETF inflows, outflows already, and we'll circle back to that. But I just hit the headlines. I'm going to look at the NFT market, and you can be my co-host.
Great.
And then we'll get to a good conversation about the ETFs. But let's switch over to the NFT market. It's where my love is. My heart is there. Volume, just not looking fantastic here, guys. Yesterday, volume actually falling to 9.4 million. That is cross-chain sales. Unique sellers actually up by just about 100, man. Unique buyers up as well, transactions up, and trade profits, as you guys expect at this point, still well into the negative here, over 800,000 in the negative. I like that metric, Nate, by the way, trade profits. I always say, if traders are winning on trades, they're going to keep playing. So that's something I keep watching to flip is trade profits. And almost always, it's just in a whole 500K to $1 million or so. But it's a sign. If I see us flip positive, I start thinking we're a different kind of back. So certainly what I'm watching for. What's your experience level with NFTs? I got to ask.
It's so funny. This will immediately destroy my credibility. I first got into NFTs by buying NBA Top Shots.
Nice. This
would have been, 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, which, by the way, I still own all of those. And all they've done is lose money.
Yeah.
The other thing you'll appreciate is I actually created my own NBA Top Shot. So literally this was me draining three-pointers in the gym, and I put it out on Rarible, but nobody bought it. So if anybody wants to go buy a very rare NFT, just go to my Twitter feed. You can find it. I tweeted it out multiple times several years ago. But no, you know what I love about NFTs is just the community aspect around it. I mean, I'm sure that's what you feel every day when you do this show. I just love the community aspect around NFTs.
It's the best. It's kind of a meme. Like, it's kind of a meme. We shout community, and then honestly, when the market turns, the community's gone. But there is something real about it, and I've always said it's like this. It's this like really, really unique value to NFT collections that you're not going to see it in the charts. There's no way to actually put a real monetary value on it. I don't know that you can measure it exactly either, but it is real. There's something to it. The community is the lifeblood of all this, so it is cool. It is special.
Yeah, and there's no question. I mean, for anybody, I'm a little bit older, but I remember back in the day collecting sports cards. And I know that's a sort of a cliche example, but I think about the community around that. And then also just, how do you price a Michael Jordan rookie card or, a Tony Gwynn baseball card? All of that, it's the same dynamics now. It's just all on chain with NFTs.
I'm trying so hard to find your Top Shot, by the way. We're going to find it by the end of the episode, which is incredible.
If not, I will tweet it back out. But I hit like 10 threes in a row, and I think I posted a clip of it was like one or two of them.
Oh, that's wild. No, you're athletic, huh? Okay.
Yeah, enough, we'll say. Enough to be dangerous. It's sort of like my crypto knowledge. Like, I know enough to be dangerous.
Oh, man. Man, in good company then. Top Shot was how I got into the space as well. So, I mean, I think it was actually a pretty common story here. I heard Mark Cuban talking about it on TV. And this was like late 2020. And it was the way he was talking about it that made me so sure I had to get in. He said, don't look at it, don't get in. It's, highly speculative. And he was just brushing it off. I'm like, that means something. That means something. Him saying it like that, I got right in. I don't think that was my first purchase, but it's what brought me through the doors here. So cool to hear a similar story on your part. Hope the collection bounces back too. All right, let's look at the top collections move in the market here. I'm going to skip BT Cat. I don't think that's I think that's probably wash trading / money laundering, and I see a lot of that on Polygon. It's no fault of Polygon. Cheap fees over there. It makes it really easy to move funds around. If I'm wrong about that, BT Cat, hit me up, correct me. I'll do a whole episode dedicated to your collection if it's the real deal. So no accusations yet. It's just I see a lot of it there. So top collection I'm going to say is D-Market here, followed by Guild of Guardian Heroes, CryptoPunks, Dozuki, OMB, Node Monks, love them, Sorare, Courtyard. Awesome collectible cards, by the way, on Polygon. It's physicals and the digital counterparts. Great stuff. And then Bitcoin Puppets rounds out that top 10. Top sales here. OMB, I think we're looking at a loan, so not quite a sale, but some CryptoPunks on the move. I'm keeping my eye on punks. Usually a good sign or a leading indicator for this space really starting to pick up. So I'm watching punks, seeing if we see some volume starting to ramp up here. Really cool VR punk, by the way. Okay, are punks more than on your radar? Do you have any kind of aspiration to own a punk, or do you already?
I currently do not own one. I wouldn't rule it out. But no, I can't say it's on my radar at the moment.
Well, they're not cheap, so that's fair. We're probably going to see a nice punk. Actually, I hope we see this punk sell. Guys, a V1 punk. You guys know the story. I'm not going to get into that now as much as I want to. But Alien V1 punk, you got Punk's OTC saying he'll pay 75 ETH for that. If that were a real, like CryptoPunk, would fetch a whole heck of a lot more than that, but 75 for a V1 punk is not nothing. So keep my eye to see if that moves. You familiar with that story, by the way? V1 punks versus crypto punks?
I am not. What's the short story?
Well, it's pretty cool, actually. So these V1 punks are actually CryptoPunks from Larva Labs, the team that created those world famous CryptoPunks. The first iteration of them had a bug in the contract, and so when people would try to list them on a marketplace, it would sell. And it would kick the ETH back to the person who bought it. It also did send him the CryptoPunk as well. So they got the punk for free. And again, the seller got nothing. So they made copies. They airdropped it to the purchasers, the original holders. And that's the collection right now that's worth, 30 ETH floor at this time? But these are technically, it's like a beta print or an error copy. I think they're kind of special. So that's the story of V1s, right? I don't think a lot of people know about it, but they are real deal, on-chain verifiable Larva Labs CryptoPunks. So cool story. I want to remind people, Art Meta Art meta loading. It's happening. I like art. It's probably my favorite thing to collect in the space. I think some of the art is truly historic here. Be on the lookout, and I always watch for signs that show that the art meta is starting to bubble up. Violetta, who is an incredible musician, who mints her art, her songs on-chain, a half Bitcoin bid on this song. This is going to close, I think, in just about an hour or two from now. So keep my eye on that. But we're talking a $30,000 sale on-chain music. Great to see. We have 7 autoglyphs that are being auctioned. This is coming up, I believe, in the next week or so here, but a lot of autoglyphs. $3.5 million is the expectation there, somewhere in that ballpark. Again, the art meta is here. Beeple News recently, he gave us a little extra info here on top of his art being featured in a museum in China. I think this is Beeple's first generative piece, guys. This is actually generative art that will update daily with top stories. And again, you can turn a knob on the piece, on the physical piece, to dial in more noise. So incredible. And again, I think it is his first generative art, which is great. By the way, out of all things in NFTs, Top Shot, you're clearly into collectibles. Does the art scene appeal to you much?
Yeah, it does. I think it's really interesting, and that's one of the things I love about the NFT space is it's an outlet for creators, which we can talk later. That's what gets me fired up when we start talking about the SEC and how the space is being regulated, because we're not regulating artwork, traditional artwork in the same manner. But I love it. I love it as a creative outlet for people.
Yeah, and the artists feel threatened. They really do, and I can't tell what's real. I can't tell if the SEC is keeping things vague enough to just make them feel threatened or what. It feels wrong. Yeah, we'll definitely get into that. That's a spicy topic. Okay, just a couple other quick points, guys. Xcopy Alpha. This is big. Now, we did tease this on the afternoon show yesterday, but Xcopy does have something coming here. It's coming before the end of the year. We don't know exactly what, but we did learn it's going to be on the brand new Shape L2. Okay, so get familiar with Shape. If there's a public mint, you want to be ready for this. You don't miss X copies, no matter what. You don't miss them. So again, Shape L2, 250 edition collection. If you have an X copy collection already, guys, this is probably some Alpha 2. Get your Deca art. What is it? Your not gallery, your whatever they call them over there. Get that looking nice somehow, some way. I think Deca art's going to get some whitelists to this new collection. So be aware of that, guys. Let's skip over. Let's get to our main stuff. By the way, rascal Donald Trump tweeting directly at NFT projects, which nothing surprises me anymore. Yes, Donald Trump tweeting directly at Milady's, tweeting at Degens too. Guys, maybe you're going to get a direct tweet from Trump. Tweeting at Mike 3 here. Wild. Dude, there's more stories. I'm going to get to our conversation. Just beware, guys. Prediction markets, betting on the United States presidential election, now legal here in the States. That was not as of just like 24 hours ago, is my understanding. Now is, will Polymarket allow us to now bet on the election without needing to throw on a VPN? Because technically that's not legal, although people are doing it. Does this change things across the board? Again, Polymarket is what I'm really looking at here. Man, oh man. Dude, let's get to ETFs. I'm really excited about this. And let me throw your account up on screen. I want people to see you. Follow you here. There you go, guys. Nate, president of the ETF Store, host of ETF Prime, co-founder of the ETF Institution, part of SlamNet here, and brand new podcast, Crypto Prime. I love the name, by the way. Love it. Part of SlamX here, which is incredible. Would you like to introduce yourself? And I'll throw out my first question to get to it whenever, but yeah. I'd like to hear your background and then how you got specifically into ETFs. Is it just something that organically happened, or was there something that just called out to you?
Yeah, I mean, the short story, well, first of all, so the ETF Store, we're a registered investment advisory firm. We primarily work with retail clients. So very simply what that means is we are managing the investments for people, say, in their retirement accounts or their taxable accounts. We also do financial forecasting, budgeting, retirement planning. So everything you would expect from a traditional wealth manager. The ETF Prime podcast is really focused just on promoting ETF education. It's something that's a passion of mine. And one of the reasons for that is that if you think about what we all learned or didn't learn in school, we take all these classes, chemistry and geometry and art and music, and we don't ever use any of that in our everyday lives. But what we do use every day are personal finance skills. And it was always a crime to me that we don't teach that to kids. And so one of my passions is just promoting financial education, and that led into the ETF space, which I'll get to in a moment. So that's the ETF Prime podcast. I have guests on from really across the financial landscape. So fund companies, analysts, you name it, anybody who's really involved in the ETF ecosystem. The ETF Institute, what that is professional education and certification around ETFs. So we offer the CETF designation. And so if you think about an advisor who perhaps is using ETFs in their portfolio, we offer a full curriculum to make sure that they understand all of the foundational knowledge of ETFs so that they can properly explain and offer advice on ETFs to their end clients. The Crypto Prime podcast that you mentioned, I'm really excited about that because it's a similar path that I want to take to what I did with ETF Prime, where I really just want to promote crypto education. And we can talk more about this. Clearly, I'm more TradFi, but there's a lot of misunderstanding between TradFi and DeFi. And I really want to serve as a bridge to help bring those two communities together. And really, I would say more so help promote education among TradFi because there's so much skepticism there. Just real quick, in terms of my background, I was early on, this was way back when, at a tech company, early in the door. And it was just a phenomenal experience because I was one of the early employees of a company that grew to about 800 people. And I had a front row seat to that, really had my hands involved in just about every aspect of that business. And around 2007, 2008, I was talking to a partner. We were crafting this idea of launching an investment advisory firm around ETFs. Back then, and even today, a lot of people still don't know what an ETF is. But we saw where the market was heading. We thought it would be a good positioning in the market to have an advisory firm branded around ETFs. And so that's how I got involved. I had already been using ETFs in my own accounts, back again in the mid 2000s. So I was familiar with them. I was familiar with what I saw as the benefits of that vehicle. And, one thing led to another. And now all I do is eat, sleep, and breathe ETFs.
Oh, man. There's a lot that you said that really, really resonates. Starting with ETFs, not knowing what they are, but back a minute prior saying that we don't teach people finances in school, and I didn't learn it growing up from my parents, and this is actually embarrassing. But part of why I do this show, a big part of it is I don't know anything about that world. I don't know anything about TradFi, and I used to be too embarrassed to ask. And I have a feeling there's a lot of other people out there that are in a similar position, and so I will ask these things publicly. So I have a lot to learn on the TradFi side. When you talked about wanting to educate, is it TradFi people about the crypto DeFi side, or is it DeFi crypto people about TradFi, or is it actually both?
Yeah, I would say it's both, but I would say, again, it's more educating TradFi. And the reason for that is, and everybody listening to this knows, once you sort of get bitten by the crypto bug, I think you immediately get it because you start researching, you start going down the rabbit hole. And it's like, once you get it, then you see where this space is heading longer term. But, much of TradFi, what they hear, FTX, and they hear about all the scams. And they just see, number go up, or that sort of being the general sentiment around the crypto space, and that doesn't resonate with them. They think that's all that it is. That there's no real use cases for crypto, and so I want to help, again, bridge that gap and help educate TradFi that yes, this is where things are heading, and we can talk about tokenization. It's my belief, even though I'm the biggest ETF advocate out there, at some point all securities will be tokenized. It's going to happen, in my opinion. It's just a matter of when. But I'll tell you, TradFi, you'll get a lot of pushback to that, where because they don't understand what's going on in the crypto space, they don't get it. They don't see that as a viable path. And you'll have people say the ETF wrapper is never going to be replaced. Well, I've seen, ETFs basically supplant mutual funds. And mutual funds still have actually more assets than ETFs. But if you look at where the flows are going, it's into the ETF wrapper. Mutual funds have been around since the 1920s. They're not going to last forever. It's going to be the same with ETFs, right? And so that's just one example where, I see the value of tokenization longer term, and I want to help people understand where I think the puck is heading.
So I guess on the TradFi side, there is a lot of skepticism about what's happening here, and I think we saw that too related to the crypto ETFs. You've been talking a lot about how mind-blowing the volume is. I think I've interpreted that the right way. Like, it's really impressive volume, but that so many people they're shocked about it because they didn't think it was happening. It means you have conviction in what's coming. what's already here. What was your aha moment? I always ask everybody, what was the moment where it clicked and you realized, oh yeah, no, this thing's coming. There's no doubt that it's coming, and it's going to be bigger than people realize. Like, what was that moment for you?
Yeah, it's so funny because I started researching Bitcoin and crypto, I would say fairly early on back in 2013. And the reason why was because the first spot Bitcoin ETF was filed by the Winklevoss twins. I think it was like July of 2013. And in doing my ETF Prime podcast, so I was the first ETF podcast out there, been doing it now for 14 years. Of course, that was a topic that we were going to cover, something that I wanted to cover. And just as I was saying before, as I started researching this, and I had heard about Bitcoin even before that, clearly, but as I started researching that ETF filing, and then started learning more, and then you just start going down the rabbit hole. And I'll tell you, Bitcoin to me made sense conceptually from the very beginning. I got it at a high level, and we can talk about the narratives there, digital gold and all of that, but it clicked for me. And ever since then, Bitcoin and crypto and NFTs have been something that I'm just highly interested in. And I think in the crypto space, you have to learn by doing, because if we're all honest, unless you're a computer engineer, some of the technology behind this, it is hard to understand.
Oh my goodness!
I spent a lot of time, right? I've read the white papers and try to understand the back end, and I think I have a pretty good understanding. But it's not necessarily easy to just immediately get your head around. But you don't have to do that if you just start trying to learn the space. And what I was getting at is actually, interact in the crypto ecosystem. Buy Bitcoin, buy Ether, move it around to another wallet, buy NFTs, right? Those sorts of things you learn pretty quickly, and you can start seeing the value. Going back to TradFi, I think that's where where some of the skepticism comes from, is that a lot of people in TradFi, I don't want to stereotype, but they won't get their hands dirty. I think about you, and I think about the people listening to your show. You guys get your hands dirty. It's second nature to you, right? You go, you buy NFTs, move crypto around, buy meme coins. You don't even think twice about how you're doing this. But to TradFi, it still seems like a somewhat heavy lift.
No, I wonder why that is, because you're exactly right. Even back to how complicated this is. It's really complicated technical terms that are foreign to a lot of people. The concepts are, honestly, they're world changing, and so they're hard to understand. It's really hard. So if you got these big concepts that you think are going to change how everything is done, on top of terminology that doesn't make sense and all new tech, I get why it's so hard for people to grasp any little bit of it. I am one of those people who didn't grasp any of this blockchain tech till NFTs, till I got some skin in the game, decided to go play and learn at the same time. And it'd be great when TradFi maybe changes their approach and also does the same. Maybe crypto allows that because it is faster, easier. The right crypto's cheaper. Maybe it does allow for that experimentation a bit.
Yeah, the good thing is with that, what that tells us is that we are still so early in crypto overall. That's what that tells me, very simply.
I try to remind people that too, because at this point, for years, a decade plus, it's been said we're early, and more and more it's feeling like, well, it's definitely not as early as it used to be, but man, it's still incredibly early. Like, it's hard to even put that into perspective. If I were to look at a chart, you ever see those charts where it's up quite a bit when you zoom out, or years later it's 1,000 times higher at that point, when all is said and done. We're before that moment still.
It's just the adoption curve.
There you go. That's it. Okay, so clearly I am less what's the word, savvy when it comes to investing. I don't know with my audience. I don't know. I do think a lot of us are new to this stuff, again, through crypto and NFTs and that whole world. So I guess starting at the basics, what is an ETF?
Okay. So very simply, an ETF is a vehicle. It's an investment vehicle that holds other assets. And I think a very easy way to conceptualize this is to and stay with me, think about a warehouse. And let's say we can put anything in that warehouse. For my example, let's say we put gold, like literally physical gold bars in this warehouse. When gold is put in that warehouse, the person putting in the gold, they get a receipt, okay, that says you own X amount of gold in this warehouse. And now think about that receipt that the person gets. That receipt can be traded back and forth without the gold ever leaving the warehouse, right? And so that's all ETF shares are. And if somebody wants, they can take that receipt, they could present it back to the warehouse and get gold back in return. That's all an ETF is doing. So an ETF holds a basket of stocks or bonds or Bitcoin, Ether. Those assets are held in a trust. So think of the trust as a warehouse, and the ETF shares represent an ownership interest in that trust. It's literally that simple. And it's funny because I'm sure you've seen some of the headlines, maybe you've covered them, about whether or not, say the iShares Bitcoin ETF really owns the underlying Bitcoin. Right, it's held in trust. And the ETF shares represent an ownership interest in that trust. And you have the largest financial institutions in the world that are trading these shares, that know that Bitcoin is held in the trust. But that's it. An ETF is just simply an investment vehicle that holds other assets.
It's a very simple explanation, so appreciate that. Okay, since you understood crypto early, again, you looked at this over a decade ago. So you saw crypto early. You also separately very into ETFs. When the ball started rolling here for crypto ETFs, on my radar last year, I don't know if the ball started rolling much before that, but from your perspective, what did that look like? Was it long overdue? Did it come earlier than you were maybe expecting?
You're talking to the wrong person, because maybe nobody out there had more frustration with the entire process than I did. Because again, I've covered ETFs now for 16 years or so. I know how well the structure works. And without going too far into the weeds, I saw other products on the market. So let's take, for instance, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust before it converted to an ETF. If you go back in the mid 2010s, retail investors were being completely taken advantage of with that vehicle. And it was very frustrating to me to see that. And I knew, because understanding how ETFs work, that the ETF wrapper would be a much more efficient way. It would be a more cost-effective way. It would be a better way to get exposure to the underlying price of Bitcoin for retail investors. And to see regulators just fight it the whole way was disappointing to me. I felt like there were a lot of inconsistencies out of the SEC with the way they approach this. I mean, if you think about, like, I go back to, I think it was 2021, the SEC approved futures-based Bitcoin ETFs. Futures ETFs have some issues, which I won't get into the weeds on that, but let's just say they're suboptimal. They're not going to offer the price exposure to Bitcoin in the same manner that a spot Bitcoin ETF would. And that's just one example. None of it really made sense to me. I couldn't understand why the SEC was fighting this so hard, and why they were allowing retail investors to have access to other products that were I would say, detrimental to them. So yeah, it was very frustrating. I thought it was long overdue that they were approved in January. It was the same on spot Ether ETFs, because again, there were other products out there like the Grayscale Ethereum Trust, which was trading at massive premiums and then discounts. There were Ether futures-based ETFs. Those products don't function as well as spot ETFs.
So, well, then fast forward to today. Do you understand now why they weren't having this? Why they weren't allowing it years ago?
No, because I honestly, look, let me say this. First of all, I operate an investment advisory firm, and we're regulated by the SEC. We've been audited by the SEC. And I'll tell you this, some people may not want to hear this. I actually have a lot of respect for what the SEC does and how diligent they are. And I do believe that, their mission of protecting investors, I think it's a real one. I think they believe it, and that's what they're trying to do. And I mean that sincerely. But I think under the current administration, there's no question it's been a very hostile and confrontational approach to crypto. And I don't, I think there's a lot of theories as to why that is. I mean, we could get into the whole, is Bitcoin a threat to the US dollar, and the government's trying to protect that. And so there's, politics involved there. We can get into the whole, KYC and money laundering and, just anti-terrorism and all of that. I mean, is there a thread to pull there? I get some of it at a high level, but I think that, obviously we're here in the US. I feel like our country should embrace innovation. We've done that historically. It's served us well. And so there's always a balance between regulation and innovation. And I appreciate that. I think that there should be, that balance. But we have been very lopsided where it's been all regulation and no embracing of the innovation. And I think that's what's been frustrating. And as I look back, it has just felt like that the whole way, that it doesn't feel like regulators are trying to work with the crypto ecosystem to try to help foster innovation and help push the space forward. Because I'm sure, like you, I've talked to a lot of very smart operators in the crypto space on a lot of very interesting products, and they're besides themselves because they have to walk on eggshells. They feel like whatever they do potentially could put them at regulatory risk, and that stunts innovation, period. Again, I think it's important that we protect investors, and it's important that we have the right guardrails in place, but it's a balance. And right now that balance is completely out of whack, in my opinion.
Dude, absolutely. Even on the NFT side, which I probably have more insights into, there's projects and businesses who are just almost at a standstill, don't want to build anything because they just aren't sure. They think they've got an idea. They think they have a plan. They think it makes sense. They think it's legal, but it's just that they think. They don't know for sure. They're not sure.
Well, and as you know, most people, not everybody, but most people do want to operate legally, right? And there's this perception that it's just a bunch of criminals running around the crypto space. Every industry, including my TradFi industry, has criminals involved. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. You can point to literally any industry, you're going to find that. But I think just like every other industry, most people are good operators, are trying to do the right thing. They want to operate legally. They don't wake up every morning saying, how can I break the law? But that's the way that the regulators are approaching the space. They're assuming everybody's just a criminal.
Then in this entire ETF process, it's taken longer than I think most were hoping. It has been more frustrating. Has there been any silver lining? Has there been anything that stood out to you as surprising in a good way?
I think the silver lining is that everybody has learned a lot more about the regulatory process of bringing, for instance, ETFs to market. There's been a lot more education around that. And I think going the other way, there's been a lot more education in TradFi in terms of how crypto functions. And, we can get to at the exchange level and being able to surveil exchanges and understand what's going on there with transactions. I think there's been a lot of education both ways. And I think that has been beneficial. And, ultimately, I think all of the dialogue we've seen over the past year or two, we can talk about the Grayscale lawsuit, all of that, even though it doesn't feel like it, those are positive steps down the path to where, I think ultimately, I hope our country will embrace crypto innovation. And I do believe that, it's sort of the, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It hasn't always felt like that. Sometimes it's felt more like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. But I do think ultimately this is all positive. It's just we're so early. These are the growing pains.
That's a great way to put it too. The 2 steps forward, 1 step back is exactly what it feels like. It does feel like the tides are shifting though, and I don't know. It feels like whether it's Trump or Kamala Harris, it feels like things are different behind the scenes. Maybe with the SEC, maybe, but also you have politicians who now finally feel like they get it. It's go back to that aha moment. Everybody's going to have that moment where it clicks, and when it clicks, I think it changes you. I do. I think it changes you in how you see the future of, again. Not to be too broad here, but everything. I think it impacts just about everything. So I feel like politicians are starting to have that aha moment and kind of bringing about some of this change. Do you agreed? And have you seen that shift?
Yeah, I agree with that. But again, I think there's going to be a longer term education process that has to take place, even with politicians. And I'm big on actions, not words. And that's not I'm not going to head down the political path. It doesn't matter. I would prefer to see actions out of our politicians than just saying we're going to do X, Y, or Z. I think that's what everybody wants to see. Show me tangible actions that you're really trying to embrace the space and embrace crypto innovation.
Yeah, really, really fair point. Okay. The success of the ETFs so far. I mean, what has it been? 8-ish months? How long have the Bitcoin ETFs been trading?
Yeah, so we're going on about 9 months since the spot Bitcoin ETFs launched, and a little over 2 months since the spot Ether ETFs launched.
Time is flying. It's really, really flying. Okay, I'm assuming this is accurate. I'm just going to take it for face value here. Inflows on the Bitcoin ETFs over $45 billion. Can you help us put that in perspective, and is that as successful as you thought it would be? And I'm trying to get into your head a bit of how we're measuring up.
Yeah. So, and to be clear, I think that 45 billion you're referencing, 45, 50 billion, that's total assets in all of the products. If you look at the actual new money that has come into those products since they launched in January, we're talking about a net of about 19 billion in assets, which is unbelievable. And I'm not surprised at all. You can go look at my, X timeline, my pinned tweet before these things launched. I said spot Bitcoin ETFs were going to obliterate every ETF launch record out there, and that is exactly what has happened. I was not surprised because in doing my ETF Prime podcast and having various guests on, and then talking to actual financial advisors and talking to end investors, even our own clients, I could feel the pent up demand there. And just at a high level, if you think about the TradFi space and the types of companies involved, so BlackRock and Fidelity and Franklin Templeton, et cetera, these firms, they don't, roll out of bed for small opportunities. If they're going to get involved in this space or a space, it's because they believe there's significant opportunity. And so I kind of added all this together and said, these things are going to be a massive success. And you asked for some context. I mean, just looking this year, there have been something like 530 ETFs that have come to market, so new launches. And 2 of the top 10 ETF launches this year are spot Bitcoin ETFs, and the iShares Bitcoin ETF and the Fidelity Bitcoin ETF. So I don't think there's any way to characterize these as anything other than a monumental success. Now, on the Ether ETF side,
yikes.
Here's the thing. My expectation longer term, and I'm sticking with this call, by the way, is that if you look at the underlying market cap, so you just go to the spot markets, look at the market cap of Bitcoin, market cap of Ether. Last I checked, it was somewhere like in the high 20%. Let's just say Ether is about 30% of the market cap of Bitcoin. I think ultimately that's where the ETF demand will settle. I think that's natural. And let's say, I'm just making this up, let's say at some point, Ether and Bitcoin have the same market cap. They're both at 50% or whatever relative to each other. I think that's what you'll see out of the ETFs, because ETFs are just pass-through vehicles, as we talked about earlier, and they reflect the underlying market. So if the underlying market says Bitcoin and Ether have the same market cap, that's what I would expect to see in terms of ETF demand. Now, in the short term, there's been about a net, last I checked, like 500 or 600 million out of spot ETF, so outflows. But if you look at the data, I think like 3 billion of that is from the Grayscale Ethereum Trust. And so once it converted to an ETF, you had this unlock with people selling it as the discount closed. So there's some noise in that data. But let's look at, say, the iShares Ethereum ETF. That thing's already over $1 billion in assets. I mean, that's remarkable in the span of a little over 2 months. So I'm optimistic on that space longer term. I do think that Bitcoin being the Bitcoin ETFs being first to market, that sopped up some of that pent up demand. And so when Ether ETFs came out, that initial newness of having crypto in an ETF wrapper, some of that was lost. And so maybe you didn't have quite the allure. But I think longer term, as investors understand, what Ether is, what Ethereum blockchain is and does, and as it's viewed more of like a technology play, whereas I think Bitcoin in the TradFi space is viewed more as digital gold, I think you'll start to see that demand come in for spot Ether ETF. So I'm still bullish in terms of demand on both of those.
I love it. Also, the predictions are pretty incredible. The spot ETFs obliterating every ETF launch record really stands out, because that's the one at least I've seen that I've understood is certainly seem to happen. So,
well, here's something else too, just to mention, which I think is important. Keep in mind that a lot of the major, what are called wirehouse platforms. So think of like a Morgan Stanley or a Wells Fargo or something like that. They haven't even approved spot Bitcoin ETFs for use among their advisors. So we're talking about some of the largest platforms in the country. Their advisors can't even recommend spot Bitcoin or spot Ether ETFs to their clients. So think about that. We have a platform like Vanguard, who Vanguard has just gated it all together to their clients. You can't buy spot Bitcoin or spot Ether ETFs on their platform, huge platform. And then if again, I don't want to bore everybody to tears, but I think about an advisory firm or I think about an institutional investor. They don't just move real quickly into new products. There's a long due diligence process that takes place before they get comfortable buying anything, let alone what is viewed as an emerging asset class in crypto. And so my point is that I don't even think the real demand has come online.
Oh, wow.
Because you have these large institutions and advisors that are still in the due diligence process, and you have these large advisory platforms that don't even allow their advisors to buy these products. So again, I think we're still very early.
Man, makes a lot of sense. Sense gets me excited. Then who's buying the ETFs right now? The Bitcoin ETFs?
Yeah, I still think it's everybody. There's a lot of debate. I think certainly the advisory channel has been a big buyer. I think clearly retail has been a big buyer of these products. We have seen some institutions move into the space, the Wisconsin Pension Fund and the likes. So right now, I think it's a little bit of everybody, and that's reflective of if you look at any asset class within ETFs, that's normal. That's sort of the normal type of buyers. I will tell you that historically, financial advisors are one of the biggest drivers of flows into ETFs. And that's why, going back to my previous point, as more advisors get comfortable around investing in crypto, they go through their due diligence process, I think that's going to offer even more uplift in terms of demand.
Okay, do you want to make a loose prediction? This is just for fun, but if we're seeing, let's say, daily inflows, I mean, this is any given day, and this is a pretty wide range, and including from outflows to inflows. What was it, 52 million in outflows in the Bitcoin ETFs yesterday? But we've seen as high as, I think we've seen even 600-700 million in inflows in a period too. I don't know if we cracked $1 billion in a day, did we?
I think there may have been one day that was close, if not a couple. Yeah,
it's been wild. Okay, when financial advisors are actually able to offer these ETFs to investors, what kind of inflows might we see then?
Here's a better way, in my opinion, to look at this. So physical gold ETFs. So there's like Spider Gold Shares, ticker GLD, or the iShares Gold Trust, ticker IAU. Those have been on the market now for about 20 years. And if you look at that category overall, last I checked, it was somewhere like around $110 billion in assets. What I would tell you is, I think that it's entirely feasible that spot Bitcoin ETFs as a category surpass physical gold ETFs in terms of assets. Maybe by the end of next year, but I would say I feel pretty good about that prediction in 2026. And think about that if they were able to do that, they would accomplish that in, say, 2 or 3 years. And gold, again, the gold ETFs have been on the market for over 20 years. I think that's a better way to look at it than just inflows. I think we'll continue to see inflows, but sometimes, and I do this myself, I'm guilty of this, I think too much emphasis is put on the inflows in the short term, because you're going to see days where we will have 600 or 700 million that flows into the products. And then you'll see a day where maybe there's a couple hundred million in outflows. That's the normal course of action in these products. But I think longer term, again, you're going to see inflows coming in. And then obviously the other component to assets is price appreciation, which I'm not going to make any predictions on that. But I think if you have upward price appreciation combined with the inflows, clearly that can easily get the spot Bitcoin ETF category to a point where it surpasses physical gold ETFs. I think that would be, again, pretty amazing if that happens in the next 2 or 3 years, and I think that's entirely possible.
The way it's spoken about, the narrative around Bitcoin, again, it's that aha moment. You can just tell more and more people have had that probably years ago, and they've been just kind of building these game plans for how they approach Bitcoin and maybe accumulate it, but how do you build products around it, offer it to it's wild to see the evolution of that over time. So dude, exciting stuff. It's great to hear other people talking about it. A lot of us have these thoughts, feelings, and we keep them in our heads or we share it in our little circles, but to hear that it's talked about this way more broadly, really exciting. Next ETFs, I think there was a filing for a Ripple ETF. We know there's been applications for Solana. What ETF do you think is coming next? And there is a little drama there in the Ripple ETF here as of yesterday too.
I had a feeling you're going to ask about that. I guess I'll say a couple of things. Number one, again, putting politics aside, I'm not into the whole political debate sphere. But what I will say is I do think politics does play a role in which ETF or ETFs might come next, because We just have to look at how the current administration has operated. And as I described earlier, in my opinion, has been very hostile towards crypto. And so it's difficult for me to see, let's say Harris is elected and that current administration stays intact. Perhaps Gensler stays as chair of the SEC, or somebody like him replaces him. It just seems I don't see another spot ETF being approved anytime soon.
Wow.
If you think about the path that the Bitcoin and Ether ETFs walked, what we had were CME traded futures products, right? We had CME traded Bitcoin futures, CME traded Ether futures. When we had the CME traded Bitcoin futures, the next thing we had were ETFs that held those futures products, right? So we had futures-based Bitcoin ETFs. And then we had the spot ETF. So you kind of had this path that was walked. We don't currently have, XRP or Solana futures trading on the CME. Even if we were to get those soon, the SEC is still going to want to see a track record of those trading. We're going to want to see data around it. How closely do those futures track the underlying spot market? How tightly are those correlated? That's data that's not produced overnight, right? That takes some time to get meaningful statistical data around those sorts of things, like correlation. And then even if we had that, then theoretically we would have to have a futures-based XRP or Solana ETF launch, and that would take some time. And then you would have the spot ETF. That's what we've seen under the current administration. That could take years. The other path is that we actually get a comprehensive crypto regulatory framework in place that spells out what is a security and what is a commodity. If we were able to get that done, that could be a path where we don't have to go, have CME traded futures and then the futures-based crypto products, right? We would already be denoted, and then you could use the ETF wrapper depending upon how the underlying crypto security is classified. I know there's been some attempts, with FIT and some of the other bills that are out there. I still feel like that's a ways off. I bring up the political angle only because we don't know exactly what a Trump administration would do, but they have at least publicly voiced being more supportive of the crypto space. And if that was the case, he could come in, put somebody who's much more crypto friendly at the head of the SEC, and maybe that could expedite or accelerate this entire process of bringing the Solana or XRP ETF to market. So that's why I'm not trying to be vague here in terms of timing. I just think that the political dynamics and then getting a crypto regulatory framework in place, those things are very important in terms of which crypto ETF would be next to market.
Yeah, interesting. So there's a pretty wide spread between if something comes next or when it happens. We could be, floodgates busted open and it's just a whole bunch quickly, all the way to it's going to be a while till we see another crypto get. I will say this. Yeah, 100%. I will say this. I do think longer term, we will absolutely see additional crypto ETFs come to market. And I think the end state here is going to be index-based crypto ETFs and actively managed crypto ETFs. So I tweeted out, I think it was earlier this week, Bitwise right now, they're a crypto fund company. They have it's a private placement fund. It's for accredited investors, but it holds a basket of different crypto assets. I think we will have the same thing on the ETF side. It's just going to take a while to get there. But I think ultimately that is going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And then, after that, we get into tokenization and all those sorts of things. But it's going to, I think it's inevitable. It's just how long does it take? Okay, speaking of, this isn't quite just tokenization. Before I get there, actually, are we going to see NFT ETFs eventually?
That's a good question. Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. There's a lot of work being done around, building NFT indices and tracking the market. I know you cover them here on your show. Right. I think the challenge is, it's funny because people have talked about doing, say, don't laugh at me, like wine ETFs, like literally vintage wines. The challenge, it's called a non-fungible token for a reason. And that gets tricky, that non-fungibility, when you start talking about how the ETF works and the mechanics behind that. you can't necessarily trade one NFT for another. And so there are some complicating. I'm just thinking, talking off the cuff, just thinking there's some complicating factors there, but I can't rule it out. I think it would depend. I think it'd be trickier just because, again, of the uniqueness around each individual NFT.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really, really good point. Then maybe the shortcut is, there's different token standards where there is a little fungibility between them, ERC 1155s, or maybe we start dealing with these fractionalized NFTs instead. But no, it's a really, really good point. If they're all unique and have different value, makes that a little tricky. Absolutely, yeah,
for sure.
Tokenization. If you still have time, by the way, at any point when you need to.
I've got about maybe 10 minutes left here.
Perfect. Okay. Tokenization. What does I'll just ask that blankly. What does it look like? What's coming? We hear about that all the time. RWAs, everything tokenized. I think that ties into the Swift announcement earlier today. I'm going to find that tweet. But what does the future look like here?
Yeah, so it's interesting now because you have some major players who are already offering tokenized money market funds. You have the BlackRocks of the world. You have Franklin Templeton, and there are others. I think that's the first step. Having a tokenized money market fund, which, by the way, I think longer term, depending upon how the regulatory environment evolves, those are real threats to traditional stable coins. Think about Tether, where that company's literally printing money. They're making as much money or more money than BlackRock. In terms of profits, the reason why is they're not passing on the yield to the end user. But think about a tokenized money market fund where they do pass on that yield to the end user. I think there's a huge opportunity there, again, if the regulatory environment allows. But I think that's the first step. You start with things that are very easy to tokenize, treasuries. There are some areas of the fixed income market. But as I talked about earlier, I do think longer term, I expect just about every asset to be tokenized. I think that's where it's heading. When you talk about 24/7 accessibility and real-time settlement, and you can minimize errors, it's more efficient. I think both for the fund company and for the end investor, there's so many reasons to push the financial services space in that direction. And so, are we talking 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? I think that's difficult to handicap. The regulatory environment, which I keep coming back to, that's a big factor there. But there's a lot that has to be worked out. Our current financial services infrastructure has been in place for a long time, and it's evolved certainly with electronic trading and all that. But this will just be another evolution beyond that. But I'm very bullish on the tokenization of assets longer term.
Yeah, I love that. What catalysts are on the horizon here? Let's say besides the election coming up, what are catalysts that you see on the horizon this year, next year? What's the biggest milestone that really does have an impact on this space in any way?
Like catalysts in what way? Just in terms of growth or price movement? Or?
Any and all of that. Yeah, just something that this space should be looking forward to, whether it's some type of adoption coming from TradFi, some milestone TradFi is looking for from crypto, from this space.
I know I'm a broken record here this morning, but I really believe it's the regulatory environment. I just think that this space cannot evolve in the way that it wants to, or I believe needs to, until there's more regulatory clarity. I really think it's that simple. And we can talk about how we get there, whether, again, it's a change from a political standpoint, or if we just have to get our politicians educated and get a real framework in place. That, to me, is the big catalyst. I think once you start to see a less confrontational approach from our regulators, then you should be very optimistic about where this entire space is heading longer term. Until then, it just creates uncertainty.
Until then, it's probably just a repeat of the past year or two. It's back to the couple steps forward, another step back, and
100%.
Which hasn't been fun. Just knowing, feeling what the potential really is. So, man, hopefully rounding that corner here soon. All right, let me throw your socials up on the site so people can follow everything you're doing. Really appreciate you coming by and hanging and chatting through some, to me, really, really interesting topics.
No, this was a lot of fun. I appreciate the invite to come on. And I think, I interact with both the TradFi and DeFi communities out on X, and I love it. The crypto community, I've always said I've been blown away just by the level of understanding. We talked about the lack of financial education in our schools, and what's impressed me about the crypto community is the willingness to learn and understand things like monetary policy and economics, and because all of those things underpin crypto, and even trading and all of the things that go into that. And so I love interacting with that community. It's been a lot of fun. I actually wish every segment, even in the TradFi space, would put that level of diligence into understanding things. So anyway, I appreciate the invite today. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, appreciate it. I does TradFi understand how big a degens you have here in crypto? Just it's for me, it feels unique. But I've always lived online. Maybe TradFi has very similar things going on, but where this is people's 24/7, and I don't know. I think you felt it or experienced it. It is a different kind of person here. I think that's the question, though.
Yes, and I love it. But I'll offer one tip, an unsolicited tip. I do think, in some ways, the degen community, and I'm referencing X because that's primarily where I'm out on. You should be a little more welcoming to the TradFi crowd. It's funny. I'm sure my colleague or counterpart over at Bloomberg, Eric Balchunas, who I'm sure you follow his tweets on the crypto ETF space. I mean, I see some of the replies to stuff that he tweets out. He just gets blown up left and right.
Oh, wow.
And I get a lot of that too. I don't think to the level that he does. I would just encourage the degen, be more opening to the TradFi space, because I think the best way to help the crypto ecosystem is to start pulling in TradFi, help them understand what's going on here. And then they're going to want to build bridges, and that helps everybody. So I know it's a little cliche, but it gets back into the education piece. And but no, I love the crypto degens. I get a huge kick out of it.
You bunch of savages, calm down, be nice to our friends. We want them to come hang with us. And I think a lot of us want to go the other way too, and come more into that world. So great stuff. All right, guys, make sure you're following Nate at Nate Geraci. Did I
you got it? I can't believe you got that right. Yes,
I'm not kidding, dude. It's been days. I've listened to other shows with it on, people saying it. I've written it down and practice, and I'm still unsure when I say it, but I nailed it. Here we go.
I am impressed. Thank you. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Welcome back anytime. Have a great day, man.
Yep, appreciate it.
And guys, we're going to hang on. We have still, the show continues. Dude, how awesome is he? How freaking awesome is he? We will have Jared on to talk art. Big art day. That was awesome, man. I just, again, I'm not very savvy when it comes to investments. It doesn't matter if it's the terminology, if it's strategy, if any of it. That's just not my ballpark, and I wish it were. So it was really great hearing insights from someone like that, who I didn't know was so into crypto that early. I think he said 2013 is when he really started digging in. I didn't realize that. So news to me. Makes me feel better that a guy like that thinks the way that he does about the crypto industry, and as bullish as any of us. So honestly, just incredible. Thank you to Nate for sharing those insights. All right, let me get Jared a link. So much art stuff. What do you guys think? Cool guy, right? And there's a lot more to get into with Nate. Obviously, part of the SlamX family now, on the House of Slam. That's related to the DAO. Very, very closely tied to the Slam DAO that's coming. There's just so much that I just don't think is ready to be revealed yet, so I didn't want to get into that yet, but you'll see a lot more of Nate and, of course, his shows. By the way, definitely check out Crypto Prime. Like, it is... I've not watched his second episode, which is what just came out, I think, yesterday. Yeah, just yesterday. The CIO of Bitwise on the show. He's had on his other podcast, ETF Prime, Hester Pierce. I feel like the CEO of BlackRock. Very, very big guest. It's an incredible show. Again, the insights you get from this guy, you're not getting elsewhere. While we wait for Jared, I'm kind of going to start the art conversation. I might want to peek at crypto here. I've not seen what we've done here in the past, hour. So let's take a peek at that. How are we looking? Do I even want to look? Look at my sweet Moodang. By the way, those Moodang NFTs, keep on that. Keep that guy's account up. Alerts on, right? I think you got a cooker right there. Okay. Nice little refresh. Want to see what Bitcoin's doing. Probably right about where we started. Still at 60K. Actually, up a little, barely, but up a little. Jeez, I don't know what turns us around other than that hope or not even hope. It's just seeing that the stock market's doing fine. Other than this morning, ignore that. Yeah, down this morning barely, but until this morning, stock market was actually up and had been even with the war stuff kicking off. So, yeah, Mike, awesome, right? Like, just great dude. I'll have him back for sure if he's up for it, and maybe regular check. You know what I'd really like is one of two things. I hate to just speak for someone's time. I would love to get a weekly show or maybe once a month, but get it's a few people, like a panel, and it comes from all different sectors, right? Nate, very much the ETF TradFi stuff. I want to find somebody else who's very, very crypto meme coins, like TA. NFTs, I guess I could volunteer myself for the NFT part, but something like that that's talking about, again, this very, very broad market with these lines that are just blurring more and more. Something like that would be wild. Yeah, Mike, I'm tempted to pull up the chart. I'm tempted. Lemon decides if I pull up the chart, not that I'm going to do anything with it, but yeah, not looking great. And I don't know the catalyst for this to kick into the next gear, other than it's always the stuff Marty points out when those longs are liquidated, it's go time. And I'm assuming there's shorts coming too, so there's the game to go wipe those dudes out. All right, I'm going to set you guys up for what I think is an interesting conversation, and we can even start it here. By the way, on your radar here, but the Mark Cuban Farouk interview drops today. I'm watching that for sure. Okay. Xcopy minting on a new L2. This guy's a maniac. This guy's tweeting, whatever. Guy's a maniac. Xcopy minting. I'm excited to chat with Jared about this. Xcopy minting over on Shape. Bullish, bearish, does it matter? This is a really, really interesting take here. Vrew, I don't know. That is weird. I saw Gravity point that out. What they're pointing out, guys, Trump's tweeting these direct tweets, and they're not showing up on his timeline. They don't show anywhere. Check this out. Those tweets, they're full on not here. Only thing I could think of, and I don't think this is the case, but are they replies? Were they they're not? They look like direct tweets. Or did X change something? Okay, here's what it could be. Hang on. Let me see if I can find that tweet. I got to see how it's formatted again. Darn, I lost it. Anybody got that tweet? Yeah, the only thing I could think was that it led off with the... Oh, okay. Maybe. Yeah, okay. Remember how... Yeah, back in the day, I don't even know. Something changed. Something changed with X. If you lead off with an at somebody and you don't put a period at the end, right? It used to show on your feed, on your timeline, but as far as it put in people's feed, they wouldn't really see it except for who was added. Maybe they changed it where it doesn't show in your timeline anymore at all. That could be. We could test it. But I don't know if he formatted the Milady one like this. I feel like he did not. I'm not sure, but maybe it's just a change to X that we just hadn't noticed yet. All right, let me see if Jared's coming. Yeah, probably right around now. Okay, so hey, Vrew, when you said you see other accounts doing that, by the way, so that is how it works now. You can at somebody and it just doesn't show in your timeline. It's so cool. I kind of like that. It's kind of like a DM, but to a group or so, right? Almost like communities. It kind of works like communities. Yeah, it's pretty neat. All right. Dude, an artsy kind of conversation. I think it's time to get into it. Jared, good morning. You want me to bring you up right now? You want to give me a thumb? Yeah, okay, cool. Good morning, man. Good to see you.
Yo, what is good, man?
I'm excited I could hear you. I don't know why I just had a really great guest and I couldn't hear him when he first joined. And I'm sure I fucked something up, but
yeah, it's always your fault.
I'll take that blame. I don't mind. So, how you doing,
it's
man?
not like you haven't been doing this forever.
Dude, you be okay. I found out why my intro was fucked up. It was definitely a me thing the past couple days. So I break a lot. I do.
I have to say, with this new start time, I'm actually kind of perturbed because I don't get to hear the intro. You know, I always bop into it.
Hang on.
That's what I'm talking about.
No, really, I think maybe I need a second half intro, a second half, whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's an intermission. And
yeah, we need to get like some sort of like DMX styled, like J Squiggle in the house.
Oh, fuck yeah, man. By the way, you made it into we made a sizzle reel. You made the cut. Here, check this out. I'm going to show you guys. It's pretty awesome. Our, Anthony, who's been doing editing for me, guy's so fucking good at this. So check, this is actually really cool. Today's hottest meme coins, the latest NFT meta, and the macro crypto markets. Welcome to SlamX. My name is Hudah, and I'm bringing you around the entire digital economy. Hey, we're breaking the trends and answering your questions live. Oh yeah, trust me, you don't want to miss the live shows. I'm talking Chain Reactor, boom,
baby,
NFTs, and more to be. It's pretty fucking cool. Look, I get it. Anyway. We got that out there. I'm going to put some ad money behind it, throw it in front of it. I didn't know you could do this, but you can put some money behind it and target specific shows to air it in front of. Yeah. I had no idea, dude.
Dude, once you get into the details of marketing, it's insane how, like, I used to do, like, Facebook marketing back when, like, dude, they used to have people's, like, income demographic, and then it got kind of, I don't know. I think it was probably illegal, but, or at least, like, Facebook or Meta got their hands slapped. But, yeah, you'd be able to, like, target. Like I was trying to like target some like high dollar thing. So I'd literally be able to say, you need to make X amount minimum. And Facebook had all this data. Like it's insane what they have. So instead, like the other hack there is like you just you could target certain area codes because it's public census data to be able to target like what the average and median and mean incomes are. So
how does that work? How do you like when you're creating an ad? How are you specifying things? Like it's probably even I just don't even get it. It's such a foreign concept to me how it works.
Dude, it's pretty like when you dig into it, it's interesting that you be able to target specific things. And even like for you to target specific shows, I don't know if you feel this, but like every single time I start a particular, like there's certain channels for trading and stuff that I watch, and it's usually like the same ads every time. So like in my head, I'm like, they're paying for this, or when it's like Coinbase or crypto.com, whatever.
Oh man, I want to break into it. I want to learn it. Just, we've talked, I'm ready. Next level stuff. Speaking of, okay, yeah, Mike, I saw your comment. It stood out to me. Degen, right? That was interesting. Coinbase or was it Coinbase listing Degen, that token from Farcaster, well after it had an initial like run, which it's wild because that token got so cheap. You would probably, I'm going to assume, had insiders that were able to scoop it up knowing it was getting listed. Obviously, you probably did well after listing, and I'm going to pull up the chart. I'm curious. But shenanigans, maybe? Dude, how you feeling about Uptober / Rectober?
It's funny because I was talking to somebody about this today or yesterday. I'm like cautiously optimistic. Like, I won't actually name drop who it was, but like when I was talking about it, I was like, because I've been through 3 or 4 cycles now in crypto, and it's like I remember in 2020 looking at, like, I had to like look deep into myself and be like, what is my conviction on Ethereum? Because you have to remember, Ethereum, like, it was up to like what, like 16, 17, 1800, whatever the high was in 2017, 2018, and then it dropped all the way down to 80. And I remember at 103, I was like, is this the future of blockchain? Is this going to be the rails upon which all apps are going to be built? And my like, I just kept being like, it makes so much sense to me, and I ended up buying, but like it didn't feel good, you know, like and so like for me with Uptober, I'm not saying like cabal or any of this like tin foil hat stuff, but I feel like there was so much like pent up enthusiasm leading into it
Yeah.
that was like, it has to go. And then I mean, I even was on or listening to a Spaces or something live for Real Vision about 2 weeks ago, and Raul Paul was like, dude, 2 weeks and it's gonna be like full on bananas, you know, like it was like like, you know, like when something is so much like consensus that like you almost kind of like maybe I need it to not be
Yes.
consensus.
Yes.
So that's how I felt on Friday. And when I did my weekly show on Friday, or my weekly Spaces, I looked at the overall sentiment, and it started to go from like negative and fear and greed to like, you know, moderate. And I was like, oof, I wanted to be a little bit more fearful going into Uptober, and it wasn't. And then lo and behold, it wrecked. So
Yeah.
that's so the whole thing is like, dude, just like everybody else, I'm empathetic to like it doesn't feel good, right? Like I have like whether you like it or not, like I just love the chart. I have XRP, and when it broke out, I was like, hell yeah, let's go, right? And now it's getting wrecked, SEC and all that other stuff. And so it feels like there's all this like pent up for all of us believers. There's all this like pent up like let's go, and I feel like it's like the market testing us to do patience and like really either further enjoy the fruits of our conviction later on, or like just, you know, it's a life lesson to say, hey, you guys can want all the shit that you want to, but you're gonna do it on my terms. And
Yes, dude. Yes, it's this thing. There's so many other factors that move this market, and people I think need to just get more used to and better at practicing just being in the moment, trying to find something to enjoy. And if you believe in this thing, if we have conviction in this, like I know we all do, and conviction that this is going somewhere that we can barely even see. It's going so much higher, so much further everywhere. Raoul Pal talking about, there was a great clip just a couple days ago about how quickly it's about to accelerate in the next 4 years, something like a $50 trillion market cap for crypto, something like that. It's like, that does feel like we're just on the cusp of. And then again, October starting the way it did, it did this last year. It did. We didn't start hot last year. We didn't. And assuming this is because of the war stuff, which I did at first, then realizing the stock market's actually been up. It's just crypto that's down. And then Marty Party, who's just excellent at breaking stuff down, and he does TA. He does show us stuff that I don't see. This was nothing more than PvP going on right now in Bitcoin specifically. These are long positions all in this range, and they were wiped out. And as soon as it got clear there, bounced back up. This is just PvP going on with Bitcoin. So if the stock market's up, if all these like just absolutely positive things are happening in the market, we've got the rate cuts. We got more rate cuts coming too. If all that's happening, man, come on.
so there's a really great like a content creator that I love called All in Crypto, and he's a English gentleman, and he does a really good job of like what I would call emotional management and big picture macro observations, and it's always nice to be able to connect like with your long-term thesis. And again, like I've kind of developed that, like I still know or have a good intuition of like where we're going. There's not a world in which like this doesn't become a bigger asset class than it is today, like in my brain, right? And you know, I don't even know how many cryptocurrencies there are out there, but like the majority of like I hate the phrase like, oh, 90% of NFTs or 90% of crypto isn't going to make it. Yeah, you're right, because a lot of it's the shit coins and the pump and dumps, and like so like that statistic is factually correct. But like there's real people building real technologies that are really going to, and again, I'm not a maxi of any stretch. Like, is the Solana token useless? I'm not part of that debate. Like, is Bitcoin the only real coin? You know, not part of my core thesis. Like, all of those things to me don't really like. I'm more of the opinion that I'm like, hey, I want to contribute to the overall growth of the ecosystem. I have zero skin in the game. I don't care if Tezos wins or, you know, Sui or Solana or Ethereum. Like when one succeeds, it will, like the rising tide rises all boats. That's kind of my general philosophy. Is like, you know, let's be good stewards. And you know, when I did I interviewed Raoul Paul, and he talked about like this in 2030 being a $100 trillion asset class. Like, to put this into context, like, right, like what, 1 to 2 trillion total right now? I
Right.
mean, if that, like, this is massive, massive opportunities if you have the patience. And again, not financial advice. I'm not telling people to go buy stuff, you know,
It's more
but
to
I
help
think,
people get settled down a little bit, just to kind of appreciate where we're at on that chart of what's coming. It's
well,
very
so the
early.
first time I saw Bitcoin, like it was when the crash, when it shot up to 1,000 and crashed down to 100. Full disclosure, I did not buy then. I wish I would have, but I was like, oh, magic internet money,
Yes.
By the way, I'm trading FX, foreign currency, at 50x leverage on the side, and like all of a sudden I'm like, oh, what, this Bitcoin thing's like too volatile, right? Like it's just flipping the switch, right? And then in 2016 I was like, okay, why does this keep coming up? And I did further research, and I'm happy I did, but it's one of those things where it's like, come on, like, take a step back, breathe. Like, what's the core conviction? And I don't share this story often, but I put my original Bitcoin on a Trezor. Yes, a Trezor. I don't even know if this shit's supported anymore, but still have the seed phrase. And I put a label on it. I said, do not touch until July 2026, because that was 10 years after my initial purchase. And it was like that reminder. I pull it out every once in a while because it's like, oh yeah, exactly. Dead Polaroid is right. Patience is key. Like when you're able to like pull yourself away from like all of the noise. And the thing I keep trying to like connect to is like I keep an emotional like I didn't like seeing prices go down. Like it hurt me. And I realized like, oh yeah, that's because like my dry powder of the dry powder is like deployed, right? Like I'm just so anxious. Like I have so much conviction. So it's like I have that emotional like my original Trezor Bitcoin, I don't care what it does, right? Like I'm so far away from removed from it because I have that long term mentality versus some of the short term stuff. I'm like, no, like that just means like you're excited and you're ready for the move, but the market just isn't ready
Yes.
to make it happen. Sorry for the rambling.
No, dude, I love it. I just need to hear people who are feeling the same way and thinking the same way about where we're going. I had a conversation with my wife about this yesterday. The port strike that's going on to me is a part of this story. It's a part of everything happening now. It's maybe it can be easy to lose faith or just be affected by what we see today because it's hard to picture what's really coming, and what's really coming is, again, we're talking that massive just the way this whole crypto market's going to be valued not far off, again, over 100 trillion, maybe 50 trillion, but 100, it's going to be massive. And it's hard to picture it because this is back to a Raoul Pal video from the past couple of weeks here. He can't even picture what the economy looks like in, I think it's 6 years out, by 2030. No idea. His plan is 6 years to accumulate whatever, because at that point, the world is a different place. The value, the economy, everything is different. And mentioning the port strike, it's because of what's happening there, too. It's because those guys are worried their jobs are going to get replaced by AI, automation, all of that. And they are. They are. And many, many jobs in this world are also going to go bye-bye, which is scary. But again, that's what's coming. This thing we can't even picture in our heads because we've never seen it before. And the whole crypto narrative of where it's going is a part of that story. It is coming. It's coming.
Yeah, pertaining to the port stuff, like to me, like it's sad. It will impact you short term, but the bigger picture is like this AI, machine learning, all that stuff. It will create another opportunity, right?
Yes.
Like in the analogy I use is like if you were whatever in the early 1900s out in a field with a sickle cutting down hay, and you saw a combine harvester come, you're probably like, oh fuck, I'm doomed, right? Like, but life goes on. It was about the advancement in like society lifting itself up and growing, and in some way you have to kind of say, okay, like I have a skill set. The skill set will be needed in the future, but how can I pivot that into something? And it's very analogous to blockchain. It's like, yeah, I think like if you're in the like the deed business, like land transfers will all be automated on the blockchain. Like if you don't see this coming, you have a problem, right? Like,
Yeah.
and again, I'm not saying like go out and get a new job tomorrow. Like it's probably 3 to 5 years out. But like like things will change. That's the evolution. That's the advancement of society. And I think that overall, you want to be attentive to what that is and start to figure out like how you can be a part of that journey.
Yeah. You know what's tricky? My kids are 12, 13, 17, and it's trying to prepare them for how things are going to change while my kids are, starting to think about what career do they want? What path are they going down? What is it they want to do? And knowing in my head and really in my heart, some of those jobs aren't going to exist. And it's weird to have to try to help them navigate where they're going with, again, fields that I'm not sure what they look like. My daughter, one of them wants to be a lawyer. And that's something I think is impacted by AI sooner rather than later too. It's a system that knows every case ever, the context of them, what's used to reference as precedent for this or that or whatever. This thing is going to be able to do that at the snap of a finger. Don't know if it means lawyers don't exist, but I think maybe not. Maybe, I don't know. But do you feel like that's something you're going to have to soon start preparing your kids for too and help kind of steer them in the right direction?
So I have my kids play around with like ChatGPT because I want them to start getting acclimated to like we're a low device family, so it's not like my kids sit on an iPad. And again, not judging, it's just whatever makes sense for us. I want them to understand technology and I want them to start playing around with it to figure out where they're oriented towards. But I mean, I have core conviction. Like my oldest is 5, turning 6, well, this month now. And I told my wife, I was like, I'm convinced he's never going to drive a car unless he wants to, right? Like 10 years from now, like autonomous vehicles it's written into the, like we're going to look at like driving a car kind of like a horse and buggy. Like, why would you do that? Right. It's going to be bizarre. And again, does that happen 5 years, 10 years, 30 years? I don't know. I think I'm more of a technologist where I'm optimistic that it happens sooner rather than later. So like, I think it's probably longer, but I could see a world in which my son never drives. And conversely, I think that like AI and machine learning have commoditized knowledge, whereas before it was like, go to college, do this, spend the money. I don't know if, well, let me rephrase this. I think college in its current form will not be in existence. I think there's going to be some variant of it for like higher education. I think that where I'm really excited about and what I'm working on with my kids is like chain logic and problem solving. Because I think that like what I've seen with playing around with AI is like you could, and it's very simplest form. It's basically an automated version or a very simple like Google search engine that aggregates stuff and you don't have to process the data, which is very useful. But how you prompt and how you use it is intuitive to like that problem solving. Like, so I was an engineer by schooling. And what I realized is I went to a highly theoretical school, very little practical application. It was less about like getting from point A to point B, but it was like the paths in which you can get there, right? You knew, like, it was almost like you knew B was the right answer. You like quantum level thinking and shit. Like it was really bizarre, right? Like you knew where you had to go and you just like, it was figuring out that path. And to me, that sort of logic and intuition is what will really differentiate when you're able to process, when data's coming at you at such a ridiculous rate, like being able to process it and discern like what's valuable, what isn't, what's false. Like, I mean, there's gonna be some like really, really interesting case studies about like AI pumping out like, and I hate this word, but like disinformation, misinformation, and then like other AI aggregating it because it's a news source, right? Like, so there's this like really interesting like data point of like how to process data in a more like, I almost look at this as like a clean data fashion. Like, like if there's like this white layer of just like really clean data, like how do you get to that and then distill that information or distill out all the white noise, get to the clean data and then process that in a meaningful fashion? That's what's going to get interesting. And even like the little hack we talked about, like having targeted Facebook ads, like, dude, I'd be on Chat GPT being like, what's the best hack to get a target of blah, 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 blah. Instead of doing like 7 hours of research, you've now distilled it down to 10 points and, a 1.5 minute prompt and then start exploring prompts further. Like, dude, I mean, like it's with the blockchain data is prevalent. Now, the only thing is like, you're going to have data overload. So processing that data and the intuition and prompting behind it, I think is where you go. I mean, dude, mathematics, like I think like I was around like brilliant minds in mathematics in university, and like those guys are like running quant funds and shit now. Like, I mean, it's like I couldn't stomach them in college, and now I'm like, oh yeah, that was probably the right thing.
Yeah, dude, I'm such a nerd. I'm such a nerd. I love this. I just love this. I think I need a show that's just this stuff, just AI, just the tech reshaping it. It's wild and it's exciting. It's here. It's here. Just like crypto's the very start, but it's here in a big way. It's the same, but exponentially growing, and we're going to see it here. Man, now, but within a few years, really see it materialize. Exciting shit, man. Jeez.
Yeah, dude. Some people are like, oh, he's gonna take over the world. Like, if they do, it's like fucking not in our lifetime. And B, like, I'm gonna enjoy the ride. Like, if you had the
Yeah.
same thing where you're like, the fucking telephone's gonna like ruin letter writing. Yeah, it did, but like it increased communication. Like,
Yep.
you know, like,
Yeah, dude, I don't have this doomer mindset with it too. I know a
yeah,
lot of people do because it sounds scary, but I think we integrate it in a way that's actually super helpful, makes things more fun. I'm hoping. I see it as just a really positive, beautiful thing that's coming.
yeah. I'm very
Maybe.
excited too. I just think that there's a lot there's a lot of upside that people haven't wrapped their head around. And full disclosure, it's not like I'm an expert, but I'm sitting there going like, man, like this is gonna be exciting. Like this is a new frontier. And like, and even if like you don't believe in it, but like to think that we can go from a $1 or $2 trillion market cap to 100, like if that doesn't get you excited, like that screams there's opportunity. And I don't, it doesn't mean you have to hold the Bitcoin that goes up. Like there's opportunity, whether it's, employment, financial gains, or even just like being a part of an ecosystem that's thriving. Like there's that screams exciting and opportunity. And I hate to keep saying opportunity, but it's like like you get to now create your own destiny. There's going to be
Yes.
things that are available to you that you just never saw or even dreamt of. Like there's shit that I'm not even seeing, right? Like not saying I'm all knowing, but like I love kind of like taking that leap of faith, and being able to say like this is going to be exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, man, a lot more of that to come. The great unknown is is right in front of us. It really is going to be wild. All right, dude, I'm excited about this. Really awesome week for art. Really awesome week for art. Why have a V1 on the screen? Oh, just because you and V1s. I don't know if you saw this. This is not related to the art conversation, but may see a big old V1 sale sooner rather than later.
Well, there
Punks
was a
OTC.
big there was like an ape that just sold, a V1 ape that sold for like 30s, I think 33 or something like that. I mean, I didn't realize this was a V1. When I saw this, I thought Punk's OTC was just being I thought it was like a V2 and he was being sarcastic, but this is a V1. Oh, now I see this.
It's
This
a
V1
V1. He's looking to grab it. Yeah. So we saw that ape. We saw, I think, a zombie last week also sell for 40, 44 ETH, something like that. People are back to eyeballing those, appreciating what the V1s are. So yeah, just exciting to see that I don't know, that narrative just keeps spreading. People still, realizing Nate, who I just had on, wasn't familiar with that story. I think still most people are not familiar with the story.
No.
It's great to share it.
And I think, like, look, if you have 75 ETH liquid, like, it's a good hedge, right? Like, I think it's a good hedge. I think there could be this could be a spicy take, a day where like V1 punks they close. I'll just say, I won't say exactly what I was gonna say. They close the gap of price disparity, because I mean, we see it. Punks are gonna go up. People are gonna say, I can't afford this, but I want to be part of the ecosystem. V1, like, there's gonna be some really interesting dynamics that.
Yep.
Memetics. I love memetics.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna cook. I think it's gonna be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I love it. I'm with you. I think it's a perfect way to put it too. Just close the gap. How close do they get? I don't know, but certainly that gap is going to be much closer at some point. At some point, who knows when? Next week? No. In a year, maybe. But in the longer time frame. All right. Again, big art stuff this week. I do want to peek at this real quick. Just on my radar, it's something I'm using to just help gauge the space. But Violetta Zeroni, awesome musician, just awesome musician. Put some of her work on chain, very Bitcoin focused. So she's got a song at auction. I think it's over now. It had a half Bitcoin bid, which is awesome. Awesome. I want to see where that finished. It might have been right there. Okay, finishes in 19 minutes, still with 0.5 Bitcoin. It's a big old sale. And again, the art meta. I'm still predicting that we have an art cycle, like a full on everybody crazy mints, like just like the heyday. I kind of think that's what's coming, maybe before a PFP meta. It's just we've not had it in so long. So watching, things like this, autoglyphs have been a big story here over the past few weeks for sure. We had the $400,000 auction from a couple weeks ago. What was it? Fair Warning? Is it Fair Warning Art who facilitated that auction?
Yeah.
A big sale, but here's a lot of 7 autoglyphs that are projected to go around 3.5 mil.
By the way, this post has been updated because it originally said, I think, don't quote me on this, but it said like first ever set of 7 autoglyphs up for sale. For anybody who knows, in order to have a full type set of autoglyphs, you need 10. So it was like this. There's like a lot of comments in the background, like, oh, first ever 7 set, like what happened to the 10 set? Like, so it's like a really interesting so 2 things. Seed Phrase is one of a few people that has a full set of autoglyphs. There's like one particular, like, so anybody who knows, I keep saying that, like, but for everybody's reference, there's one of the few metadata traits in there is like the characters, kind of like math castles that have like the characters, the ASCIIs that make up the pattern. There is one patterning that is only 8 in the collection. That is the Achilles heel, so to speak, of the collection. And so I don't know if Seed Phrase, it's interesting that he's so he bought this set a long, long time ago, paid some absurd amount of money at that time, but it's obviously aged extremely well. But I find it interesting that he's putting 7 pieces up instead of the full set, right? Like, so he's obviously, while I do talk with Seed Phrase, I don't know, this is not fact. My observation is he's keeping, and I haven't done the research, my observation is he's keeping probably the 3 rarest, selling it, and then maybe at a later date could replace them and pocket some of the money.
I see.
As profit is my guess.
So he knows a complete set is really 10, not 7.
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was just fun. Whether it was NFT Now or Sotheby's, I forget, somebody was like, the first ever set of 7 to come to auction. And I was like,
yeah, they're and at least
first ever, right?
Is not corrected yet. So yeah, they're sticking with that.
Yeah, it was just a really interesting. And look, Seed Phrase is doing amazing work. Like, he has those hoodies that were just up with Swarovski, and I'm not knocking on anybody involved. I just think that, again, if you got $3 million to throw around and you're listening to this, just be wary that
it's a set of 7. It maybe is not a complete set, though.
It's not a complete type set, but it's a set of 7.
Yeah. Man, still great. If you think if somebody buys that set for, let's say 3.5, do you feel like that's a bargain? Let's say 10, 15 years out. Sometimes we see big sales and I'm like, cheap, free. So autoglyphs are special.
The problem I have with this, in all honesty, and this is gonna be another, I'm like spicy today, man.
I like it.
Is like, if you're gonna set collect. Like, don't market this as a set when it's not really a set. Like, to kind of like bifurcate like your question, like, will autoglyphs be more in the future than they are today? My personal opinion is absolutely think that's the case. Do I want to eventually get an autoglyph? Hell yeah. Are they special for a number of different reasons? Hell yeah. I just like, so to answer your question, yeah, these will probably be more because there's 7 of them, and they're going to probably be more in the future. I just really like, if you're buying this lot, you're either doing one of 2 things. You're one, trying to complete a set, and then you're going to be off on like trying to to buy these other 3 to complete a set, or B, like you're getting duped. Like, it's just,
yeah.
Again, great marketing. That's the name of the game. I would have just taken a different approach to it.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not knocking on anybody.
No, fair take though.
But it's like, first ever set of 7. Like, come on, man. Like,
I mean, so accurate because it might be the first ever actual just lot of the number 7, 7 specific, but
Should
It's
we
not
put
considered a
4
set.
up to be like the first set of
First
4?
ever set of 4. First ever set of 5.
Like at what point does like firsts like and autoglyphs are historic? Like I think I just had this thought. Like I think part of the reason that like it irks me on this is because autoglyphs are historic. They're paradigm changing. And for those who are listening and maybe don't know the history of it, like it's from Larva Labs. It's the first ever on-chain generative art piece. There's only 512 of them. They're very limited. Like these are very coveted, and they're usually going to people who are locking them up for a long, long time, right? So, you know, I truly believe they're historic. So to state something like first ever set of 7, like it is
It
like
is the wording like this is really funny. The first time a set of 7 autoglyphs will be available at auction. It's just literally the fact that it's the number 7.
To me, it distracts from the real historic nature of what an autoglyph is. And you know, the fair warnings auction that you talked about, you know, that to me, it honored the history and the integrity. We talked about provenance coming direct from Larva Labs, and like that felt like a real honoring of like the historical significance or the paradigm change that autoglyphs had. This is like it misses it to some degree, in my opinion. One person's perspective. I might be wrong.
I mean, I can only agree now knowing that a set is considered a 10. A lot of this space is marketing. We've seen it all along. I mean, guys, think of how many times you've seen historic or the first ever in front of, I mean, for a while it was in front of everything. And were they really historic? Was it really the first ever? A lot of that stuff, no. But again, a lot of great marketers here in the space. And then regardless, autoglyphs are historic. And it's a nice set of 7. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it is cool.
That's exactly what it is. I would say like it's a great set of 7. Like here's a rare opportunity to like, if you are in the market for autoglyphs, to like start your set, right? Like that. And again, maybe that's where my honesty and lack of marketing exuberance comes in. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it. I was like, man, maybe I'm gonna hop on to make sure I'm not like a complete dope. But yeah, the symbol scheme, there's 10 types of symbol schemes with the 10s and 0s. So basically a very binary output being only 8. And then so it's actually interesting. I'm looking at this. There's one that has 8 total, one that has 11 total, and the one that has 16 total. And then it kind of like varies a little bit. But I mean, that very well could be like holding on to some of the. Anyways, good luck to whoever's been and have $3.5 million liquid. I would love to have a set of autoglyphs. It will never happen. Full disclosure. Like I plan on like riding up this wave in the market, but I mean that's like big boy money. I mean, this is going to an art collector or some tech billionaire. I'm surprised it didn't go into private placement. I think there's probably something to do with like just a partnership with Sotheby's with the hoodies and all that stuff.
Well, question then. Well, private placements, why do those happen? What's the benefit of the private sales, the private deals, as opposed to it just being a on-chain public kind of thing? And I ask because I want to get to Beeple's new piece, but also, kind of, I don't know if that's kind of the same. It is kind of a private sale, I think. Why is that done?
Well, so there's 2 things that happens. Like one, sorry, I got plugged into the back to my computer. One, auctions usually bring some sort of exuberance, and like what you see is you only need 2 people with a shitload of money to want something more, and egos come into place, especially when you're playing at that level of the psychology behind it is you get 2 people who want something, they have a shitload of money, and they're not accustomed to losing, right? Because they're billionaires or 100 millionaires, whatever it is. And so the ego comes into play. You've seen it with a couple really distinct art pieces historically. So that's one reason to go to auction if you can garner enough attention. I mean, you even saw it with the goose, right? Like the goose had 2, like 6529 ended up getting it, but like he was bidding against a traditional art like collector. Same thing with like the Salvador Mundi, right? Like it was just 2 billionaires who bid up this like potentially fake Da Vinci to 450 million. It was just 2 bidders, but to go from 100 million to 450 million, like all it takes. So the auction is there. Private placement. I think full disclosure, I'm in the private placement business essentially because I'm privately placing some of the issues from Delta Sauce's stuff, but I'm not in like the business like a Fountain or some of these others who like actually like do it. I think that usually what happens in private placement is like they work with specific art consultants, and those consultants will go out for a fee and curate a collection. And part of the reason why they do that is because then you get access to things that either are not available commercially or they don't want it to be public as to how much they are paying for it, which, you can debate. It's blockchain, blah, 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 blah. But, there's this, I think it's interesting how people get all up in arms about it, but art, but then like you do an OTC deal for like a fucking ape and nobody's like, oh, the ape can't move like on chain, like, so again, it's a reminder to me that we're in the infancy of blockchain, and we're trying to figure out the rules, and the rules change.
Good take. I'm gonna shoehorn something in here not related to art at all, but we talked about this new token earlier. Just mentioned it called Pochita. I think that was it. Pochita. It's a new meme coin, really launched yesterday and shot up in an hour and a half to like a $20 million market cap, and I think like 30 or so now. And the Doge account, who owns the dog, IP at this point, the Doge IP, kind of the photo at least, tweeted it out. So there's obviously some kind of connection here. Coin probably cooks and all that. So anyway, just wanted to show you guys because there is news about it. All right, dude. Fucking Beeple. Dude, come on, like, what a piece of work he put out. Was this, I think it was Friday? Was it Friday he tweeted this out? He revealed his tree of knowledge. Maybe it was Monday. Man,
I don't know.
oh, man. Oh, what a piece. I'm positive you've seen this, right?
Yeah, this is gorgeous.
What a thing. It was fun because we looked at that live on the afternoon show with my brother. At first glance, didn't quite grasp what it was, and thought it was he thought what we're looking at here is in the whole image here was the piece, as in this, what he didn't realize was a physical. He thought it was just the whole thing was just a rendered, a video, and he didn't quite. Okay, he liked it, but he's like, it's going to be worth a lot because the Beeple name, not because of what it is. And then when it dawned on him that it was that physical case, like Human One, and it all clicked. And just seeing in real time his reaction change to it was awesome. Something about that presentation adds so much to it. What a fucking piece, dude!
Isn't this the one that has like the destroy button? Yeah, the destroy button. Like, and if it gets hit 666 times, like it's done.
No
like, it's
way.
Yeah, I think that's like the concept is like. Look it up now. Now you're making me like test my knowledge.
I hope that I wouldn't be shocked. Well, all I knew was the knob you turn to dial up or down the signal, the noise, the interference.
You can show more.
Wait, say again.
The show more there. Okay, it's not there. Keep scrolling.
I hope that's part of it, dude. That is wild. If so,
keep scrolling. I thought I read this somewhere. It stops. Yeah. I thought I read, like, if you hit that destroy button a certain number of times, I thought it was 666, then, like, the piece itself, like, disappears forever.
That feels like a very Beeple kind of thing to do, to be honest. I'm going
to... Like, it almost feels like it's, like, his Banksy moment, right? Like, where, like, the auction closed for the Banksy, and then all of a sudden it went and, like, half shredded the piece. Did you ever hear that?
No.
Oh, okay, dude.
Oh, wow. Oh, man.
So Banksy, like, there's a Banksy that sold for like original art for like $3 million, and this had to have been staged. I'm sure people were in on it, but at an auction house, sells for $3 million. Gavel goes down, and the second it goes down, like, there's a shredder at the bottom of the frame, and half of the painting goes out. So you have half of this painting just dangling out the bottom, shredded, and then the other half like still in the frame. And the craziest thing, so it was like art with performance art, and ironically, then like the piece started getting offers for like 2 or 3 times the Gavel close price for that reason.
This article, by the way, says that it's called The Art Newspaper. Let me find it directly in here. I had no idea, and that's incredible. Okay, the owner of the piece can control the work further by pressing a choose violence button, which initiates a violent state for several minutes. Oh, before destroying the tree. Okay, hang on. Let me get to... Okay, the button can only be pressed 666 times before the imagery becomes permanently stuck on the dystopian state.
Dystopian.
Oh
There you go.
man.
Yeah.
So that would be this, right? I'm assuming just like the news and all that. And it probably like it's a generative piece. I just learned that yesterday too. This is generative. It updates
It's
daily.
based on API. Yeah. It's
Man.
awesome.
Oh my God. That is so cool. Okay. We can and do choose violence over and over, Beeple says, but not an infinite amount of times, as there are certain lines that cannot be uncrossed. And we cannot only do permanent harm to each other, but with nuclear weapons, we have the ability to permanently fuck up the earth and make it uninhabitable. I think this is unlikely, just as I think someone pushing the button 666 times is unlikely. But I wanted to give weight to each time you choose violence to help us remember that choices have real consequences. That's wild. Did you guys know? Did you guys watch and know that? I didn't. That adds so much to it too. I love it. I love the thoughtfulness of this. Incredible.
Yeah, to me, it was like, and it sounds weird to say this, but like another 3D image from people like Human One, I think would have been nice. But like to me, this is like, it's an advancement of like his concepts and even like awareness. And I hate to just be like a Beeple lover because it's like full disclosure, I don't love all of his art, but like just the concept behind this, like it means that he's doing thoughtful work and he's creating it in a way that's like engaging. Like, and there's just this like, again, it's very Web3-esque of like user input. Like, do you go and punch it 665 times to, just like fucking teeter on that edge? Or, do you lock it up and, once a year allow like this to happen and create this spectacle for the next, 600 years or something? Like, there's just like so many different like ways that you could then start to deploy it, and like putting it out into the universe is like great. And then it reminds me of like the artist Patrick Amadon, who, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with him or the listeners are, but he just had this like commission for LG, and in it he put this like very controversial, like it was like, and I've talked to him about it and it's public now, but like he, like Fight Club where he spliced in like certain sort of graphic scenes into the, not only the film, but like the films that he did. He spliced this in, and it was just like it was a clip where it spliced in a Wikipedia page. I won't say what it is because it'll probably get you banned. But like that sort of thing is like the astuteness, the political awareness, like just put the engagement and like whether conscious or subconscious engagement with like the observer. It's awesome, man. Like these artists are next level, and I'm gloating on. Thank you, people, for taking this to a whole nother level. Thank you for taking a very fresh perspective to it. Like, is this the first time like user engagement's ever been done? No, it's not. But is this the first time that like Beeple's done it, and he's advancing the way that observers can like and patrons can engage with his art? Yeah, it's exciting, dude. Like, I don't know.
The stage he has, the reach he has, the notoriety. It's somebody like that who is using things, like you said, has been done before, but he hasn't, and more people are getting to experience a thing like this because he's doing it. Man, put an armed guard in front of that because, Eco Warriors, here's an idea for you. Instead of throwing a can of soup on a painting, you can make a mad dash for this and mash on the button and mission accomplished, which you never know if that's how it actually plays out. Could be.
But it's like fun too, because it's like big enough that like it's not a concern, but over a long enough, again, going back to the macro conversation we're having, like on a long enough timeline, all of a sudden becomes like, oh shit. And like, I wonder if there's like an actual countdown that you can like check on, or if it's like you don't fucking know, and then like some security guards like clicking it in the background, and you're really at like 460 instead of like 27. Like you never know, man.
Yep. Oh, I love this. That again, it added so much to it. Well, incredible piece, like just an incredible piece. We made predictions on what we think it sold for. My guess was 7 mil. That's before I realized what Human One sold for, which was 29 mil back in 2021. So I had said 7 before. Henry, I think his guess was 150K. And I'm like, Henry, I don't know about that one. I think Joe's guess was like 3 mil. Do you have a guess? Do you actually know?
I do not know. The stuff bubbles up eventually, but my guess would have been over 20.
Man. Incredible. Another sign of where we're at. Of course, it's a Beeple, kind of different, but it's something's happening in art. It is. It's been, again, a few years since we had a big time focus on art, but something's happening here. This is just one of many examples that art is about. We're about to have art season again. I think here. Incredible piece again, private sale. All the money, I think all the money is going to 2 charities. Split between,
Insane.
let's see.
Oh,
Art
it
in
does say
Acres
how
and Big
many
Green.
countdowns
Yeah.
there were. It flashed up on the
Oh.
screen. That's good.
Oh, it
What's
does say.
interesting? No, well, I just saw a screen somewhere that said like 663.
There it
Yeah,
is.
right there.
Yep. Oh, it's so cool. That's so cool.
Look,
Man,
at the end of the day, regardless of the money that's being put into it, to me, it's about eyeballs, right? And I've always stayed by this. Is like, one of the missions of ANAP art is to get like more of my artists into museums, because like, its influence from my direct like life experience. Like, I remember seeing the first Jackson Pollock I ever saw, and it inspired me. Like, at least ask the question of why. Why is this art? Like, I can splatter paint against a canvas. Like, why is this important? And I think that that's something that's like important for the longevity and the advancement of the art. And again, because the little kid that sees this and gets fascinated with it maybe will be creating in 10, 15, 20 years. Like, the impact of art it's hard to quantify immediately. And this is the thing that I like about Beeple, is he's creating experiences not only for his collector core, but for others out there. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Oh,
And
just
I
incredible.
think Memetics asked about like Beeple's Human One. I think Ryanzer and the fund One of One actually owns it, even though they lease it out for observation.
So it can be displayed at museums, and maybe in the meantime or between comes back to Beeple Studio for display and moves from there. So cool, you got to see that in person, dude. I bet that was something just to see that up close. It's wild. Let me think what else. Yeah, again, generative, really cool, dude. We got some X copy news. We got a new X copy edition coming, which is great. Cool conversation around this too, but super cryptic, of course, and more details coming out just by the hour. It feels like. So this is a new 250 edition, and it's coming to the new shape L2, which is very, very interesting. I did see Xcopy actually tweeted this morning. If you have God, I'm being so dumb. What do they call it? Like your gallery on Deca? What are they called? Where
It's a Deca gallery.
Okay, you got a little gallery, whatever, on Deca. Keep it updated. I don't know. It sounds like maybe he's given allow list to
Be my guess.
It's pretty cool. I wonder if it has to be top X copy collectors, or if it's just galleries in general, highest ranked, whatever. But just if you're in that ecosystem, if you're on Deca, make sure you're looking fine. Maybe you get picked for a spot. But yeah, the Shape L2 launched, I think, just this week. Really interesting, very art focused blockchain
on Monday.
Okay.
Yep.
Thoughts on Shape?
So I'm very bullish on it. I think to give some color commentary to it. It's from the team behind Deca, and the gentleman behind Deca is Han, Bonafide Han, and Han's been a big advocate of art he's, if not the largest, one of the largest like Fidenza holders. He was largely responsible for some of the advancement of Fidenzas and Tyler Hubs. So I'm not saying exclusively, but he was very influential in that, and he's just been a good patron of the arts. And the team behind Deca, and there's a really notable figure, Praveen, who's just like an awesome steward of the community. And the fact that they're creating an L2 specific to art, I find very interesting. There's dynamics behind it. Like, I think it's like 80% of the gas costs go back to the mint or the contract creator. There's just some like really, I think that there's a really interesting value proposition. Just like anything else, I have some feedback for them that I'll share in private. But other than that, like, very well received. There's enthusiasm, and look, let's call a spade a spade. It brought more eyes and great mints to our timelines, and like, if that's what they're doing, my biggest question was like, how are they gonna keep it on the top of the timelines? But that's more of a marketing question. I mean, you kind of see it on live or on screen right now. Like, DK has this like, and anybody who's not familiar, like DK Motion has like this like amazing. You can kind of like almost create your own like PFP. It's a very
they're so cool. Deeples,
dude. yeah, deep pools. Like, these are just, it's awesome. I mean, shout out to Delta Sauce and Red Rum, who are two, 8-nap artists. They put small editions at affordable prices. I mean, I think Red Rum's is 0.033 ETH and Delta's is 0.04. So I mean, there's look, I'm privy to know that some of the stuff that's coming. They've got a great lineup, and just like they did with the Deca decals, like they have a great people who are engaged. I just think it's a really, really cool. It's a cool thing that there's like this L2 that allows for that's focused solely on art. It's not like trying to take Arbitrum and make it an art one, or base and make it art. This is just like, for better or for worse, they've come out and said, screw it, we're going to be an art focused L2. That's our purpose. And that's cool.
It is. Yeah. I mean, at minimum, cool, and hopefully there's some cool innovations. And I think we're getting little glimpses at that. We'll see what more. But yeah, the deeples are cool. I didn't realize. Okay, I knew Red Rum had a piece there. I didn't realize that Delta Sauce did, which is awesome. Are they through Transient Labs? Their new what is that called? Their new platform.
Yeah.
I want to pull that up.
It's either Transient or Foundation. I mean, Rich Caldwell did this, worked with Transient. Transient has this new Gen Art creator where they're he mashed up all of his Rich Caldwell does this amazing aerial photography, and he integrated it into a generative project through Transient. So there's a lot of really dope stuff going on there. And again, it's just exciting to me. I think Delta has 10 editions left out of 30 or something like that. I don't know if it's public or if this is even, he stated this, but I think to some of those who hold the raffle, he's going to give away some of his issues that are in his public wallet. So he's going to raffle them off to holders. At least we talked about it. I don't know if that's official. Don't take it as gospel. But yeah, that. Oh, by the way, that piece that's up. Do you see that one that's Golden Gate Bridge? This one's up for auction right now. A couple hours left on the 8-nap site. This is a stunner. This is one of my favorite pieces in the collection. It's taking everything in my power not to bid on it.
What is it about this one that speaks to you so much?
Well, one, I went to college in the Bay Area, so there's that. But two, I just think the composition on it is phenomenal. This World Syndicate is amazing. It just if you picture the Golden Gate Bridge or you've been to the San Francisco, that is the scene that you want to see right there. Clear sunny day, the beautiful red bridge, orange, whatever you want to call it, with people out boating. I just, and again, the composition, it hits all the thirds perfectly. It's just, I think the coloring is great, and it's amazing.
What's the thirds?
So there's a theory in photography or art, if you want to call it that, if you split the page into thirds, so either horizontally or vertically, that it's more appealing to the eye. So what you'll see here is the horizon is on the bottom third, but then the mainstay of the bridge is on the kind of the left side of the third, and then the dark contrast is on the right side of the third. So it's just human psychology that people have a tendency to, instead of putting it's not to say you don't like it, but if instead of putting the Golden Gate Bridge in the center of it, when you skew it off, it draws the observer in more.
Yeah, dude, it's wild how psychology, it's studied for marketing, but also it's interesting to learn how our brains do process stuff and what we're drawn to. I've heard of that before. I just like hearing it. Again, I like hearing it said. Really cool. Yeah, that auction is live again on the 8-nap art site. I'm going to drop a link in the chat here to it. Really cool piece. Okay.
Yeah, that one's exciting. And it's got a little bit of a bidding war going on, so
nice.
It's the auction mechanism that we put in place is playing out, but B, it's just further validation that great art warrants great engagement. So I'm super excited for this one. I think it's stunning.
And I'm telling you, dude, you're doing a killer job with the way you planned it, having this always kind of on the timeline in front of people. Every day I see something Delta Sauce on the timeline. Every day, it's impressive. The mint was what, a month ago at this point?
Yeah, it was on 8/8, more than a month.
It's wild, to see it, and it still feels fresh. It still feels active. I can't think of the last time I've ever seen that. So,
and the cool thing about this is the art's going to the hands that matter. There's only 3 issues listed currently. um, and I just think that's a really interesting dynamic when you're able to. I mean, you're actually I was DMing. I don't think Harvey will mind me saying it. Harvey Rayner about his shape release noodles, and he was talking about like a slower release, and like I think this is healthy. Like we have this like again, hopefully you've seen this about me. Like I like to challenge kind of like paradigms and narratives, like this like fact that like it has to sell out in 15 minutes and it has to be a gas war. Like it's great, but like for me, it's like more about like sustainable engagement and letting the artists have moments that like are meaningful, honestly. And I think that this sort of slow roll, like constant engagement, like the cool thing about this is like he gets to talk about his art on a regular basis. Like I think as an artist, that's all you want, right? Like you want more people to hear it. You want more, like you want people to hold on to it. And I'm not saying don't sell your art. Like that'd be hypocritical. I sell my art for profit and for loss too, right? Like I but like instead of just being a flash in the pan, like let's have the conversation. Let's talk about the art. Why is this important? You may not like this one. There's a great, Biggie Poppins. Like there's a syndicate in here called Lit. That's more like punk rock. He's been collecting around like that syndicate, right? And like I think it's his background now
Yeah,
too. Like,
yes, that was really cool.
right. And so he put into these are 4 issues from Delta Sauce. Like it's dope to be able to see somebody like, and he hand curated that set. Like I helped him like, acquire these, and it's like to then put them together, and like that's what resonated with him, right? Like I just think that it's a really dope way that to see like all of this stuff come together and be on one side. So not just sorry to keep rambling about 8NAP and what we're doing, but it's exciting, man. Like and like you said, to be on the timeline for 2 months, like
that's it. I think you cracked something. I think you figured something out here with with keeping the attention and doing it in a really. It doesn't feel forced. It feels like it's like very organic. It's keeping my attention. It is. I'm happy to see them popping up.
And you want to be an art appreciator, right? Like that's what that's the meme, right? An art appreciator, and it's like okay, let's appreciate the art, right?
Yep. Oh, dude, good stuff here. Yeah, you guys got to connect here.
Yeah, Mimetics is awesome.
Dude, very, very. All right, last story, I think, and you got to fill me in if there's anything I've missed here in the world of art. I'm sure there's tons. But man, I freaking love this one so much. MP Cause the brand new Art Blocks collection coming in just a couple weeks at this point for the initial 20 lamps. Bokeh, if I say it right, I don't know. It is live on Art Blocks now, as in you can go on there and start clicking and clicking and clicking, like I've already done for over an hour just to go through different iterations. It's like my favorite. Like even if I'm not minting, I can't fathom that I'm going to get to mint this, but I will click and click and click and get a feel for rarity and what kind of stuff can pop up. And I didn't realize, let me see if I can get to the right page, but I didn't realize the generative part wasn't just maybe, the colors and the structure. What do they call it? The composition itself, I guess. But it's the shape of the lamp. It's the type of wood being used. It's the shape of the wood too. I didn't realize, dude. It's just a wonderful collection. It really is.
Yeah, so there's a lot of dynamics here that I'm like really, really enthusiastic about. One, I'm a firm believer of like, again, we did it with Delta Sauce, is like playing around with algos in advance, right? Like I think that creates connectivity. And even if you aren't going to buy, we're talking about it, right? Like this is free marketing. Like we're not paid by Art Blocks. Like we're talking about it. Like, so when you get in and engage with like with it, that's amazing. Like you saw the success with QQL on it. Sketchbook A is another one that comes to mind with William Lapon. Like when you get in and you play with an algo, like you just emotionally have more invested, and that's a like for anybody out there, a creator, like that's a hack. Like if you have confidence in your algo, put it out there and let people play with it, right? Like so I love that you're able to do that. I love that like you can save up to 200 outputs. I really see like a world in which like running into the the mint of these things, like it's going to create a lot of enthusiasm because people are just going to be like, fuck, like A or B. Like there's going to be a lot of polls and like a lot of engagement on X. Like it's going to be really fun.
It really is.
The thing I'm curious to see how this works out, but the thing that it's low key, nobody talking about it, but one of the, just as a builder, something I'm very fascinated with. You can use crypto or a credit card.
I saw that yesterday, and I was thinking, I'm like, that might be my way to have a shot.
And it's first come, first serve. So that's really interesting to me is like, will somebody be able to put in their credit card data to get one of 20 before 20 crypto degens, go on Ethereum? So that level of like engagement, I think, is gonna be really interesting. Like, should they reserve some for credit cards? Like, I don't know if they can do that at this point, but waiting for your credit card transaction, does Chase like
do they block it and you got to reply back, yes, that was me? Dude, we've seen this on other platforms too. Same thing. Sometimes, actually often, there's a glitch on one payment processor versus the other, as in the crypto. Like, maybe there's another mint going on and just the network is bogged down and like, it's just hard to get your transaction through, but credit card stuff's going through instantly. And sometimes it's the other way around, and I don't know that there's a way to plan for it, but it does give everybody a different kind of opportunity on each mint. I'm watching for that this time around. It'll be a factor. We'll hear stories.
I'm gonna be a realist. $3,000's a lot of money to a lot of people. I also think for only having 20 of them, it's a very fair price. I was actually pleasantly surprised at full disclosure. I'm not buying one, but I mean, 1.2 ETH. It just feels like that's a very fair price for the amount of work and attention that will go into these pieces.
Yeah. I am going to try. I'm going to try, see if I can make this, at least get myself in a position to try. I think it's beautiful. I think there's going to be that opportunity. NFA, I think there's going to be an opportunity to get it, flip it, but I also think it's an incredible piece that I would love to have sitting at my desk with me or right next to me or whatever. It's just awesome.
I could really see this being like a Tiffany's lamp of the future, right? Like, because it's so unique. It has this like pedigree. It's Art Block's first like relaunch into the physical, like, and I mean, put all this like BS of like first aside, because I'm kind of like tired of that narrative. They're just beautiful. I mean, like you said, you could have it at your desk and you're like, look at it and make you smile every single time. Like, it's just, it's cool.
If you missed that, there's the public sale with a certain number of editions of those also getting a physical, not a lamp, something that's a little more, I think it has depth. It's not quite 2D, but it is a more flat thing that you can hang up on your wall. Just an incredible collection. So we'll keep on top of that, heading up to the, election, to the sale. And, man, any other big happenings, big events in art this week?
The one thing I would say, the thing that caught my mind is VVD and his Rare Pepe Series 8. I think you saw, like, dude, if you looked at the lineup of them, they're just really cool. And again, they don't get a lot of traction. I don't think, like, you might be able to flip some of them. But there's some big artists. Like, I mean, I was just on the phone with Dengiz the other day. Like, he's going to release one. I think, like, ACK has, VVD released the list. ACK has, like, one coming out. I mean, there's just like,
wait, what collection is this?
It's I think it's called Fake Rare Pepes. It's like Series 8 by VVD. But like the first two that came out by Bats, which was like awesome. He's an amazing artist and collector in the space anyways. And then like Botto had one, which was like really, really awesome to see. Like, but like the Botto one, I think you can mint, the mints are 0.069, obviously VVD on the meme theme in Pepe. But like they shot up to like 0.1, 0.2. Again, quick flip if you're interested, but like a lot of them went to allow list, but there was a public portion of it. And scroll up. That's the list. Look right at the top.
Here?
Oh, no, keep going.
Oh, here
right there. But I mean, look at this.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
dude,
wow.
Like Dengi's, Dark Farms, DK,
Claire Silver,
Die, ACK, Claire, like Terrell Jones. Like I can't name off everybody.
Wow. Jeez.
Ray, I'm gonna have a call with him next week. Like, dude, these are just like killer asset. Like Jake Fried. Like this is
Penguins.
But that's what I'm saying, right? Like, I don't know. It's just like this season for some reason feels special. And then if you scroll down one more time, it's okay.
Oh, like scroll. Hang on.
Yeah. Back. Right there. That's the Botto piece on the top right. Top right. In
cool.
The bottom right is the Bats piece, which I think is freaking amazing. It's like Bats, it's Pepe, it's like, and again, I'm not saying this is gonna be like paradigm changing, but if you're looking for like a fun way to collect, especially from some of these artists, it's a low entry point, right? Like, I mean, and I don't mean it low as disrespectful. Low as and just like
it's affordable, easy to get in.
Like, dude, there's a couple artists in there that like I'm enamored with, and it's like if I'm fortunate enough to do it, I'm gonna buy a piece.
How often
Right?
do these drop? Do you know?
I think it's like 2 drop every other day or something for a long time. There's a whole dynamics in there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I called it fake rares. It's not. It's called notable Pepe's Series 8.
Yeah, fake rares is a
11.
whole different series, right?
Yeah. Well, there's like the rare Pepe's, which are like obviously originally Bitcoin, arguably the first NFT ever. And then there's like fake rares, and then VVD's doing notable. So again,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of layers to this ecosystem, but this is something that has my attention because unlike others in the past, like this has like a killer lineup. Like I'm looking at it going like, man,
Looks special. You know,
well done.
so art, I Tezos art is what taught me that again, I think everybody's going to be on chain one way or another, but I think mostly everybody's going to be trading art on chain and affordable stuff. And it's like the whole range of price tiers for the kind of art people are going to collect and trade. But this is what makes it so obvious, is that it's being released as like collectible card series, even if it's not a card itself, it's like, that's the presentation. It makes it relatable. It makes me understand it easier. The price point is part of that equation there. So this helped me see that really, really clearly, that we're already doing it, but that's the thing that works. It just works. So cool to see. We also have the memes from 6529 season. Yeah. I think it might be 8. I might have that wrong, but whatever season it's on now, that also kicked off this week. I think just yesterday, day before. So
yeah, and they're doing good work too, right? Like I mean, you talk about like two groups between VVD and 6529 who are just like bringing artists in, getting good exposure. It's hard to track all of this, but if you find something that resonates with you, follow them, and good shit happens, man.
There you go. Last little reminder, whatever. 0.33 ETH for the new X copy edition. I don't know if the name's there. It might all be allow list. So get in his Discord and make sure you check out there, especially if you have an X copy piece, like get in there, and they do raffles for his drops often, and that looks like what's happening here. So get on that. Guys, make sure you're following Jared. Also the new 8nap account. So Jared _POZ. What's the 8nap account?
It's 8nap_art. Yeah, I've owned it before I launched 8nap with the anticipation to have it, but it's just sat stagnant for a little bit. But now I'm, I have a marketing group behind it, obviously at my direction, but just I want further engagement, right? A place that you can go and hop onto and get 8nap related content.
Love it. So follow that 8nap_art. Jared, show tomorrow, right? Friday show.
Yep. Friday we'll have Roger Dickerman on 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 Pacific. So excited for this because we'll cover some of the topics today, obviously, but with Roger's input, who's just a freaking big brain.
Dude, we should get him on one of these Thursday art shows. That'd be a lot of fun.
You tell me when.
Yeah, hell yeah. Good stuff. All right, you can follow me, guys, at Hudah_idiot. Afternoon show today at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time with Joe, with Henry. We'll have some fun there. And, of course, make sure you're following CryptoSlam.io over on X. Jared, dude, thank you. Hope your day's excellent. And you guys, hope the day's awesome as well. We'll see you, I guess, later. Yeah, we'll see you later. Peace.
Brilliant.